Welcome, dearest retainers, to Court of Blades, and welcome to Valloward, the greatest city in this or any other age. A city where hearts race and swords flash, where intrigue and danger lie around every corner. Centuries ago, celebrated veterans were given title to Valor Isle, a place long abandoned by its first residents. Here, the heroes found ancient secrets, bountiful land, and a fruit bearing oracular gifts. Generations later, 6 families vie for ultimate control of this jewel of the archipelago, each seeking to lead the great dance of houses. A new retinue rises to clash with flashing blades, veiled plots, and powerful magics in pursuit of their house's interests and their own secret ambitions. Speculate presents Valloward, a Court of Blades campaign, starring Primi Mohammed, Marie Bilodeau, Brandon O'Brien, Gregory A. Wilson, and your dancing master, Michael R. Underwood. Be welcome, retainer. Get comfortable, but not too comfortable. It's time for Court of Blades.
Hello, this is me making sure that my audio was working. I'm a little hot. We're here. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a special twitch.tv/arvaneleron plus Speculate presentation as we continue our series Valloward, playing a Court of Blades by a couple of drakes. I am joined by some, but not all of the cast today. One of the nice things about a Forge in the Dark game with a crew or like a group sheet is that we can play with varying cast, and I'm very excited to have Marie and her character back, as well as my co-hosts, and we will do some downtime and then I think get ourselves into a little bit of some shenanigans. So I'm going to invite the lovely cast to introduce themselves. Starting with Marie.
Hello, I am Marie Bilodeau. I am an Ottawa-based writer and science fiction writer. I forgot what I am, and storyteller. I am super excited to be back. I missed the last couple of rounds, although I've read some notes and I have questions. But I'm not going to ask the questions. I'm just going to roll with it because that's more fun. Um, so it's good to be back. And you want me to introduce my character as well, Mike? Yeah, okay. I play Kara, also known as Litra, daughter of Lisa. And I am the Hawk. Sharp perception, lots of shooting. I'm also a cryptid hunter, so I am very interested, particularly in the legends of the monster in the lake. And my family has a bit of a monster hunting history. That's how we make our money, which is totally fine, totally above board. And that's me. Thank you for having me.
Hello, everyone. It is I, Brandon O'Brien. I am a poet, writer, and game designer from Trinidad and Tobago, and one of the co-hosts of Speculate alongside Mike and Greg. I am also doing a lot of other things, including writing the RPG content for that goes alongside Greg's wonderful novel Grey Shade, which you can definitely find out more about very, very soon. Or if you're following the Kickstarter because you back the Kickstarter because you're a cool person, you can discover some of the cool things that are going to be in that book very, very soon. I will be playing Zelfa Hamill, the Key, a descendant of local Dialta who are indigenous to the island of Valloward, Zelfa also has very strong feelings about the fauna on this island that might run counter to other people's feelings about those creatures. So that might be a source of conflict. But before I go, a thing that is not about me, I would like to let all of these lovely people in chat know that, as again, we are playing Court of Blades, which is designed by a couple of Drakes. Today, as we play, is Navi Drake's birthday. So if you want to get yourself a copy of Court of Blades for cheap, you can do that right now by checking out the Court of Blades Birthday Bash bundle on itch.io. where you can get it and the companion zine and community zine for less than the base book costs, which is actually very cool. So you should definitely check that out. And that's me.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Arv, and this is my channel. I feel like I'm in a 12-step program. Hi, everyone. My name is Arv. It's good to see everybody. Yes, the reason I'm in streaming from my laptop is because I am coming to you live from Baltimore, Maryland. I am at Farpoint, the Farpoint convention. Can confirm. Where's my thing? I put it down somewhere. I had a badge someplace. Oh yes, see, there it is. This is me. That's my alter ego. And see, I'm a guest. You can tell. See, I proved it. So, I did a panel today. I have panels tomorrow. I do a reading tomorrow and stuff like that. And then I'm heading home so that I can go with my family to put pajamas on goats on Sunday morning. And that's not making anything up. I'm actually doing exactly that. Otherwise, I am very excited for these folks to be back. I'm especially excited to be playing with Marie in this game again, because it's been a little while, so I'm glad to have Marie back. And again, nothing bad happened in our last session. There's no problems or loose ends to deal with, so it'll be fine. I am playing Carevis Dorencio. I am the Bravo. I am quick of wit and unmatched in combat. That's what the sheet says, and I see no reason to disagree with it. And I'm still kind of like, the hell just happened, has basically been my reaction to what's going on in game. So I think we're all ready to go, and it's lovely to see all of you. Oh, wait, sorry, one last thing. I did want to mention that this morning I recorded, chat, a bunch of videos for the ArvCon kickoff event that's happening at the Klein Memorial Auditorium in Bridgeport, and tickets are on sale. They're on sale as of now. I always wanted to say that. So you can go to theklein.org. That's TheKlein.org, theklein.org, and you can pick up tickets. These are $5 tickets, and that will actually get you into, I believe, both in person, and also they're going to be streaming it on, they have like a Vimeo thing that they do. I will be restreaming it on Twitch, but it's a little complicated, so I'll get into that later. But tickets are now, so please spread the word, let people know. Thursday, May 26th. This is the first time ArvCon has ever had a physical component, and it's very exciting, and they're very excited about it, so I'm super pumped up about it, and I geeked out about it with Mike and Brandon earlier today. So that's me.
Yes, we were both very excited. There were some signal problems, and so when we had to repeat ourselves, I think the summary that I gave was, that was awesome and you should feel great.
I was like, good, thank you.
Well, no, there's too much. Let me sum up.
No, let me sum up.
So yes, I'm Mike Underwood. I write as Michael R. Underwood, science fiction and fantasy, mostly action adventure, found family kinds of things with lots of genre and trope twisting. I am the dancing master for this campaign, aka the GM. The Drakes shared the term dancing master with me, and I have held it close to my chest as a former show choir, former tango dancer person. It makes me feel very good. And I play everybody else and use all of the pronouns there, they, he, for me. You should see the player pronouns in the name text boxes here. I apologize that the name text is a little small. I'm going to keep on working on that for our overlay, and we will move forward on that. Because Marie has not been able to join us for a little while, I wanted to do just a little bit of recap, both for the audience's benefit and for Marie's. But I'm curious, Greg and Brandon, if I could call on one or both of you to do a little bit of recap, which you are welcome to do from your character's perspective or from your perspective as the player. And so that's to either of you.
Or I can, Brandon, it's up to you. Also, thanks, Mrs. Dunsel, for the resub.
Please go ahead, Greg.
Okay. Let's see. In our last, I was a DM, I always do this. In our last session, we got word that there had been this place in Veterans Rest that had been broken into. It was a tomb, and apparently someone had broken into it, and that was a problem because there's no one knows what actually happened to the tomb. So we went to Veterans Rest, and Zelfa was able to successfully bribe a guard who was nearby, who was not at all a double agent for House Vorster. We were not at all a problem. We went into the tomb. We were able to discover that down below in the tomb, the sarcophagus was empty. And so what that means is that apparently a soldier has been brought back to life because we sensed necromantic magic. So essentially, there's a zombie soldier running around, and a double agent almost had their cover blown. And the house, one of the houses is probably responsible for doing this, which means we're probably going to have to be careful to avoid open warfare on the streets. Other than that, nothing much happened. It was fine. Out of character for a minute, I don't actually recall, because I'm not in front of my home computer, obviously, which house was the one that we suspected. Do you remember that, Brandon? I don't remember which house was the one that we thought might have been involved, like we suspect might have been actually the ones that released this dude. But
wasn't it Ardcraft?
I
That one?
Well, it was using Artcraft, but I don't know who yeah. Right, but they're not the ones who provide security, right? Like the security is another house, or is it Sapphire that also manages security? Okay, Bill was Sapphire. Okay, yeah. So, oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. So it could be House Fairest. It could be House Sapphire. All we know is that it's definitely not House Forster, and that we have this X Factor that's dead walking around in Valloward.
It's fine.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
Yeah, not potentially a future threat at all.
Yeah, no.
So
that's not something we'll see at the worst possible moment.
Yeah, I realized that I was muted earlier, so I'm going to repeat. House Fairest is the house that has the sphere of influence that includes the graveyard. They provide the security, but the person who is resurrected was a founder of the Fairest. And so there's two of the great houses that could theoretically have been involved and or are impacted. Sapphire are the hosts, theoretically. Fairest are the ones who are, I guess, aggrieved. So there's a few different ways that could go. And when you kind of learned all that information, you went back and reported to the house leadership, where it was revealed that the guard that Zelfa had been speaking with was in fact the eye of House Vorster in deep cover. So you've learned the identity of another retainer of the house, much as our Hawk had been doing other things while the rest of this retinue were taking on the errands that we saw previously. The house has many assets, and then you all as a group represent one group of those assets, and then some assets that report to you.
Yeah, speaking of which, if we're back at the house, I assume that when we see Kara, I can be like, so Kara, what have you been up to? We've not had anything happen here. Everything's been normal. All normal.
Everything?
Oh yeah, there's no problems. Right, Zelfa? I look at Zelfa with a big smile.
That's a lie.
You didn't even try. You didn't even wait. You didn't wait 5 minutes.
The dead walk? I think that's worthy of letting our allies know things are not ideal.
Yes, well, I was going to get to that. Yes.
I have missed you, my friends. Things are never dull here. Not in your companies.
Well, what about you? What have you been doing?
Just some reconnaissance work. Nothing really important. Or of note.
Is that nothing important, like the way that I was just pretending nothing was important, or like actually not important?
There were no dead walking.
Okay.
I can guarantee you that. but the rest.
Karevis probably hears that and is like, there are no dead walking, I can promise you, and probably considers the possibilities, is like, yeah, logical, I suppose.
Not where I was.
You're dead, don't walk, I understand.
I am not judging your choices, my friends, but perhaps next time, stop the dead.
And is it reasonable to assume, I don't know what Lutris is doing, but can we assume that Gensia is probably like trying to track down more information about the nature of the magic, I'm guessing?
I'd imagine that with the information that y'all have, there is a lot of research to do, and specifically research into texts that are not often surfaced. So that's like going to archives, that is going into the like basement library storage to pull out biographical and like census information from hundreds of years ago.
Yeah. Gandalf writing to Minas Tirith to check out the library. I got it.
Right. And then Lutris can get a lot of information by hitting the street. And so I think we can use that to explain where the other retainers in the coterie are at the moment. So this falls back to the three of you. Since the retinue did a errand last session, though it was a somewhat short one, you are again at liberty to pursue your own downtime agenda, and that can include doing things that are focused on the house and the retinue. It can be working on projects of your own. Let's look at people's situations. So I see that Karevis has 4 stress. I see that Kara has 0, and I see that Zelfa has 2. So because none of you have any scandals, you are not required to seek indulgence and reduce stress. But 4 stress is a tricky place, because there's a decent chance that you overindulge, but if you don't relieve stress, you have just over half of your stress available.
Yeah, I mean, my thought about it was that the stress, I don't think any of the stress is that problematic. I mean, maybe I'm overstating, or I'm underplaying it. But I felt that like this does not feel like a downtime with a lot of like stress reduction. But yeah, I mean, we could run into problems, I suppose, down the line. I mean, I'll let the other 2 folks say what they want to do. I have a thought about how to address this thing that we just went through last session, but
So I would like to ask a question.
Sure, what's up?
Several sessions ago, I discovered that other local Dialta are kind of going through it.
That's true.
Can you remind me how that situation ended the last time?
Sure. So I will return to my notes.
I vaguely recall almost being beaten to death.
So you did have quite a confrontation. So there is some individual or faction evicted a building worth of porters. The porters in Valloward are largely but not exclusively drawn from the kind of the Dialta population here. And you kind of got onto the case because there is an elderly or an older Dialta woman, Yara, who goes out of her way to recommend Zelfa for like various local assistance. And then Dinor is the kind of helper here. And a local Kennis came to you asking for assistance because his grandmother is getting screwed over with a weird new lease that involved like having to pay more often and like various sneaky clauses. And Zelfa pulling on that string and doing a bit of research kind of revealed this larger movement or activity that was putting the screws to a larger number of Dialta.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, I think you were going to file the paperwork that would have like cleared up the rental situation for the person you spoke to's grandmother, and you were refused entry to that kind of local civic office, and that's where that confrontation happened.
Mm-hmm. So one, that means that has not yet been resolved.
Yeah, things are still pretty dicey.
And as a result, I would like to ask, what would be, like, I have an idea that what I want to do is one of these two things. I'm asking which one is more useful. In the downtime actions for Court of Blades, I may either uncover a plot, or I might perform an intrigue. But I imagine an intrigue requires me to know who I'm targeting.
So normally uncover a plot is targeted at a great house first. Mm-hmm. And then depending on how well you roll, you can uncover more or less secret plans. And this is intended to allow you, the character and the players, to know the kind of big project of one of the other five great houses, because you can then do an intrigue to thwart it. And if you thwart the project of another house, one, they can't finish it because it's failed, and two, they will suffer in the end of social season advancement calculation, because they cannot advance that project in between seasons. Normally, in between seasons, I would do a GM turn, or I will do a GM turn, and I will check each of the major houses' projects, rolling dice, doing kind of faction turn, but at a bigger scale. But if you pull off an intrigue and cancel one of those projects, that house gets 0 project progress for that season. Because you're not totally sure who is behind all of this, I would say that probably the thing to do first is a 3-tick long-term project for figuring out who's behind this. And then that will put you in a better position to react to it. How does that sound? I think we may have lost a Brandon.
Or he's deep in thought.
Could be.
Or he's very, very thoughtful. Like just really like, wow.
Right. Brandon is actually as stealthy as Drax the Destroyer claims to be in that second Guardians of the Galaxy movie, where he's like, I'm moving so slow no one can see me.
Just gonna fade into the background.
Just wait for the wisdom, though. When it lands, whew, it's gonna be a life changer.
And like, I'm back.
Okay. So a longer pause like this, it makes me think that this may be a larger computer problem for Brandon. We'll do our best. This is one of the challenges of live actual play streaming. So I will thank everybody for their patience as we try to make sure that the things can go and work. So while we're waiting for Brandon, I will remind everybody of the other things that you can do during downtime. You can relieve stress, which I mentioned earlier. You can train, where you pick whether you're going to work on kind of special moves, your playbook XP, or whether you're going to train body, mind, or spirit. Each of those is a separate track. You can pursue a long-term project, which is what I pitched to Brandon. You can do an intrigue, which is a larger scale long-term project that can operate on the scale of the great houses. So if you're going to thwart a plan, you would use an intrigue. All right. Our overlay has broken slightly, so I'm going to... I kind of don't want to fix it because I'm hoping that Brandon will be back soon.
I feel this pain so much
We
in
can
so many ways.
Let me see what we look. Oh no, we
It's-
look great.
It's fairly funny. All right, here's a Brandon again.
If I go here.
So if we get Brandon back, will it fix the things? It will.
Okay, Brandon's back.
Yay!
You're just really deep in thought there, Brandon. Up. Oh no.
Now there's some shock.
Oh no.
Wow. The so in when we play Fractal Spire, the conspiracy is working against Brandon to go after their internet. In this game, it's clearly whatever faction is going after the Dialta is also going after Brandon's internet.
Yeah. No, that's right.
So I'm just going to check other sources in case Brandon is able to communicate with us that way.
Arudno says Brandon O'Brien live streaming at 1 frame per minute. That's pretty much it.
Oh, that's a little rough.
Oh man.
I mean, if I had the means to single-handedly impact the way that Brandon's city does internet and or get Brandon, like, I don't know, satellite internet or something that's like totally disconnected from the local grid, I would do that thing. But that is beyond my means.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm sorry. Zoom crashed. I restarted it and it crashed again.
Wow. Yikes.
So it's not your internet. It was Zoom.
I think it's happening with my internet as well, to be sure, but it was Zoom.
Okay. So
I was gonna tell you that I only heard half of that last sentence, and now I can't remember what the sentence even was.
So fortunately, I do remember, which is a little bit of an impressive feat. I was going to suggest that finding out who is behind those evictions is probably like a 3-segment project clock. And that if you fill that, then you would be in a position to either do an intrigue or a long-term project to address that challenge. How does that sound?
That works for me. At which point I should clarify then. I imagine a long-term project is specifically solving one of the 2 problems that has occurred to me, and an intrigue would be totally upsetting which house is responsible for that mess in the first place.
Yeah, I think tackling it as a project would be more symptoms focused. Tackling it as an intrigue would probably take longer, but would allow you to address root causes, or at least act against the actor instead of just acting defensively for the porters and other Dialta.
Okay,
I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I'm taking a long-term project first. So I guess the thing that I should be rolling is wait, where are my actions? I should roll sway, I think.
Okay, so what?
I think most of this is probably me, like, it's either sway or consort, because I think the thing that I'm doing is gathering information from other Dialta and kind of, well, other affected parties, both Dialta and Valloward porters, and get a sense of what might potentially be in common that it would be useful information to get a sense of who's responsible for this or what the end goal is.
Sure. So I think what you described sounds a little bit more like consort. So I'm curious what part of it requires that you have to kind of lean on people a little bit more, or kind of win people's attention or like change their minds that is more that is a manifestation of sway. Like you can roll
Yeah.
consort, you're just not going to have, you're going to have one fewer die.
Because I think sway requires me to do that investigation on the enemy side, like trying to get in contact with the people who harassed me outside of that courthouse instead,
Okay.
which would be useless in hindsight. So I think it has to be consort,
Yeah,
which is not ideal.
I think if you were going to do that as sway, I would actually probably take us back into free play because that would be risky. But consort, you can absolutely do if a contact or one of the other player characters is helping you, you will get +1d. So you can look on your contact sheet, or you can look on the coterie contact sheet, and or if one of the other players would like to volunteer their character helping, we can talk about how that works.
So I do have a contact who might help, and I'd really like to see how we introduce her in the first place as well. I am friends with a banker named Babette.
You are, in fact. Yes. So
And I feel like following the money would be very helpful in this instance, obviously.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So how do you know Babette?
I think while we have not worked on a problem like this before, I think that we have worked in instances where like financial disenfranchisement was the problem that I was attempting to solve. And even though I suspect Babette doesn't enjoy trading insider information very deeply, and as a result I don't know like numbers and stuff, she's very good at giving me enough information that gets me to the point where I know who is responsible for a thing or where I'm supposed to get further information, such that she cannot get herself in trouble, while still relaying enough information that I can pretty much sense the numbers from that point.
Okay. So do we think that does Zelfa work for the Bank of Valloward, a branch of the bank, or some other type of bank?
I think Babette works for... No, I think she has to have some level of influence in the Bank of Valloward as a head office. I think not only will she need to have that kind of clout in order to be able to trade large scale information of that nature,
right?
but I do want to play with the narrative consequence that this would be of great risk to her as well.
Sure, yeah. That sounds great. So you will get a +1d on your consort. You can roll that as a fortune roll, which would be 2d. And then if your highest roll is a 1 to 3, you'd get 1 tick. A 4 to 5, you'd get 2. And on a 6, you would get all 3 in one go. You can also spend influence to get more dice, or you can spend influence to increase the result level after you roll.
I have 3 influence, so it actually would behoove me to wait until afterward and spend 2 influence, because I'd just get the thing, yeah?
Yes. You can, at most, it would cost you 2 influence regardless of what you roll.
Okay, so I'm gonna roll 2 fortune dice.
Okay. Just coming over here so folks can see the results. So that's a 4 and a 4. And Brandon, I'm going to give you an extra tick for free because it's bankers.
Wow.
So you chose
bankers.
You chose the perfect contact, and when you did, I was like, okay, I feel like I'm gonna have to give Zelfa like a free effect level, but if I say that, it kind of gives it away, and so I have to play my cards close to the chest. But no, you got it. And so I think, you can put that you can put in a request for a meeting, and Babette would have you come into a come into a branch of the Bank of Valloward to get a little bit more discretion, and then she has, manufactured a reason to have business at that branch. And it's probably in that barracks district that is where Karevis's mentor's church is, kind of an old working class neighborhood. And Babette will meet you in it's like a second floor office. It's a fairly nice office, and part of why it's nice is that it has windows that look out on the sunrise as it's late morning, and so you get to enjoy some of the beauty of the island, even in this very institutional space. Do you have any idea about a look for Babette, or shall I come up with one?
I trust you.
Okay. So I think for Babette, let's say a slightly shorter than average, cheery and round woman with kind of a circular face, big warm cheeks, and kind of medium light brown skin with warm undertones, and has her hair up in puffs, and wears what you know to be Dialta influenced versions of Valloward fashion. And a lot of it is about which textures and which fabrics go with one another. So I'm curious, what beyond that, or do you have another idea that you want to add onto that kind of sartorial detail in terms of Dialta coding?
I think, now that you've given me that idea, I think there is something interesting to play with the idea that, clothing is how a lot of Dialta transmit messages. There is, very obviously a kind of communication taking place via fashion that is meant to be in a kind of Dialtan reclamation of Valloward as a territory, has been a kind of cultural movement toward hiding messages in plain sight, specifically from Valloward. This is an opportunity for us to say a thing that only another Dialta can interpret. So I'm kind of intrigued by the idea that texture is a way that one communicates that textured patterns potentially mean things as well in certain contexts.
Okay, cool.
What that thing is, I will leave up to you.
Yeah, and I think we can build on some of these elements over time. And so she's wearing that. I think you can because Babette is an uptick contact as a friend, you probably are able to see Babette more often than you might others. And it looks like she's doing pretty well for herself, just from the accessories and that flexibility of being able to just decide, okay, I'm going to be over here today, and then take a private meeting and have it not cause problems for her. And when you come in, I think that she has... where did my notes go? We came up with all sorts of fun details. Do you remember the name of that drink that Zelfa always has for her clients? Maulir, is that right?
Yes.
So I think she has a pitcher of Maulir kind of in a bucket of ice when you walk in, and pours you some before you sit. And she says, "It's so good to see you. I know you stay really busy, but I was very glad to hear from you, and please have a drink." And she kind of hands you a glass.
Thank you very much. And I sit down. I'm glad to hear that the colonizer's gold is keeping you well, and that you're being busy doing the best that you can. I don't think I'm going to hold up too much of your time. I guess I just wanted to ask a couple of questions that I'm sure you've probably heard some rumbles about.
Oh well, I'm happy to do what I can. I find that a lot of the Valloward that are high enough up that I'm working for them didn't get that high on their own. And so a lot of them just don't like doing work and they pawn it off on me. And then I've found a way to make myself indispensable. And doing this type of job, indispensability also gives me leverage. Let's call it leverage.
I see what you did there.
So do I.
I'm ignoring it.
Never mind.
Which is nice. Having someone who is indispensable means that, unfortunately, it means that I get to bother you every once in a while to ask you to risk your duty for the greater good.
Well, what's life without a little bit of excitement?
I'm glad to hear you say that. I'm sure you've been hearing about some of the struggles the Porters have been going through.
Yes, familiar is a good word. I was wondering if it might be that, there's a few given things going on in a given time, but I'll have to be a little careful with what I say. And as she's doing that, she's like writing on a piece of parchment and folds it and passes it to you. And on the parchment is written the name of it's basically, it's an account number and a name. And she says, a lot of the important business is, of course, managed in the central branch. And, those with long-standing accounts tend to have juniors managing their accounts, and those people come and go a little bit, and there's certainly the possibility for something to have been misfiled or somebody to get lost in the shuffle. So I'm sure that it was just a misunderstanding, and I would encourage you to go and go on a 2 days from now, which is like a Valloward Thursday, and talk to Sine, who I believe is the account manager there, and they should be able to put you in touch with someone to clarify these issues. And that she kind of looks over to the corner of the office where only, like, maybe you noticed it walking in, but maybe you didn't, that there's a little bit of rock at the one corner of the building that it's not painted this way. It's painted just so that it covers up a dark blue gem, which now that you see it, that's probably some kind of monitoring device.
Noted. I will check into that as soon as possible. I do want to make sure that the folks that I represent get the best possible service that they can from this bank. I know that this is a long-standing institution on the island and want to make sure that everybody is being treated the way that they should. Not that I'm implying that that's not the case, but you know how money gets for a lot of people.
Certainly. And when a system gets very large, sometimes accidents can crop up that are nobody's fault. And then it just takes some work to dig into the kind of the machinery of institutions and pull out whatever that jam is.
Of course.
But speaking of jam, my sister has been getting into everything Dialta, like canning and jamming and this, and it's just so much I cannot. I need you to send some people to come and visit me next weekend so that you can take some of these jars off of my hands.
Of course,
And
I can think of quite a few people who would enjoy some new preserves to keep in their home. Um, you should let. In fact, we should make a night of it. I want to give you an opportunity to meet some of the folks that I'm serving recently. I think it would be a lovely opportunity for more Dialta to get to know each other and get to widen the community. I can make some flatbread if you need any. We can surely make an event of the thing.
A variety of bread plate would be wonderful. She was talking about, oh well, this jam you can really only appreciate with, and then she names off like 2 or 3 dishes. It's like, oh, okay, these all have a lot of fermented elements, and so like that maybe already sets your mind off in terms of like, here's different combinations that we can have, and then she says, so I'll make sure to send all of the information over to Yara, who can get it to you and to anybody else that you need. But I should probably let you go now so that I can get back to kind of the local business here. I'm cross-referencing and triple checking some accounts and, very boring stuff. I'm sorry to take your time with it.
Oh no, of course. I'm just very glad that we got to talk. Again, we will chat very soon about our lovely dinner plans. And thank you for letting me know to follow up on my client's issue as soon as possible. And I will bring some fruits for you as well, because I know your sister's your sister has probably worked up all of the trees that you have now that you mightn't have any might not have any left for juice, only the preserves that you've already made. So I'm sure we'll have quite a wonderful night when we plan the rest of that. But I will leave you to your work. Thank you very much again. Tell your sister I said hello.
Of course. And the sister's name is Junette.
Of course it is.
And then I think we diagonal wipe to the Central Bank of Valloward, where there's a quick montage, and you can like present a note, talk to a person, and what you get, I'm just going to go back to my actual notes so that I'm making sure that I'm giving you the right information.
What does Sine tell me?
So there is a supervisor, so somebody who is, I would say, 1.5 to 2 levels above Babette. Supervisor Equili, who has been personally involved with shaking down these porters. And Equili is old money Valloward. So not Dialta, just kind of generations and generations here, involved in various businesses. And so faction-wise, it is in fact the Valloward Bank that is making the problems here, but you're able to identify somebody within that faction that is more directly responsible. I'm just going to put that into the chat for your notes, should you be interested.
Okay.
So that is that. I think if it's okay, Brandon, I will leave you with that, and we'll jump to somebody else's action and then come back around if you want to follow up more on that.
Indefinitely.
Okay. So, Marie, what do you think Kara is interested in pursuing, having been kind of read in on the coterie's latest actions?
There's a few things that come to mind. One of them is I'm honestly fascinated by the dead person. I don't know how to track the undead, which strikes me as interesting. It could be something that I would be interested in finding out more about. I can do monsters, cryptids, enjoy it, the hunt, but hunting the undead is not something that I'm familiar with. So that's something that's just kind of, of interest to her as something that
Sure.
she's heard. And another thing that she's still thinking about too, and unless of course, in when she was doing reconnaissance or finding out some information for the house, if there's anything that you wanted to play into action, feel free to propose it as well. But the other thing that was also of interest to it is it occurred to her when the last time she was with the coterie and we were at the ball and there was a trap set, it occurs to her that she hasn't, she's set some traps, she's not bad at it, but she could learn a few more types, especially ones that capture people and hold them in place so that she can then interrogate them. So both those things are kind of interest to her right now. She's just kind of relaxing back into the coterie.
Sure. So I think,
I'm
re-
open to.
yeah, so researching, so tracking the dead, it probably involves like doing some research in terms of, okay, here's the type of undead, and here's what they would and wouldn't leave in terms of physical evidence. Like that certainly seems like one
Hmm.
element. And then, the if you take it to the magical level of like, oh, okay, what are supernatural ways of specifically tracking undead? That's kind of another approach or another stage beyond that. I
I
think.
mean, yeah, I mean, Kara really believes in the using the land and the signs left behind for what they are.
Mhm,
Magical tracking has its place, but if you're good at what you do, often you just need your eyes and your senses.
right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we can definitely have a. I think this is either going to be a project or an intrigue, probably a project, which would be track down the revenant. And you can absolutely make progress toward that. And it would make sense to me for those early steps to be about figuring, like finding the best ways to track someone with a very specific physicality, someone who has very old mannerisms, somebody who may be wearing really old material and therefore could be tracked that way. Things like that.
Yeah, like scent. But I know that the I believe that the others are Lucius are perhaps looking into that right now. But this would intrigue me as a side gig because if one person comes back and is walking around, then surely there are other dead out there, and I don't believe that the deads, legally speaking, I don't believe that there would be that much, you know, standing in my way to perhaps acquire some for like a petting zoo or something. Um,
Sure.
A
Uh,
petting zoo.
we're diversifying.
Yeah, apparently. That's all
Goats
right.
with coats. You don't get to judge.
That's
so
right.
I think
Now we have a banker that can bankroll us, so it'll be fine.
so I think tracking down the revenant to at least some place where they stay or frequent would
Mhm.
be a 6-part clock.
Okay.
And that is something that anybody and everybody can contribute to, and it is not something that has to automatically get done this downtime. You can
Okay.
make progress on it. I would say if it's left long enough, some of that progress might bleed off as people like move around and leads get cold, but you can definitely make some progress there if you want. We can also take it a different way. There is exposure to deal with. You could be training, and part of how the training works, we could talk about that being working on the traps or something like that. If you wanted to come up with a design for a trap that would then become gear you could use and reuse, it'd probably be a project to design that.
Okay, let's go then towards the training.
Okay.
I am curious about the undead. I know that I'm not the only individual who'd be looking for them.
Right.
And Kara right now is thinking that the cryptid hunting and the monster hunting has been difficult for her family of late. And the money's not where it is. They're trying right now to just collect some of the fallen pieces to, to reuse, like the feathers or even the droppings, and just try to turn them into other materials to resell them to make their money. But
Hmm.
the monster hunt itself is not being good. So she is thinking, like, what if we could do some live captures instead, and then apply that to the work at her house here, and live capture some people, or some monsters, or anything. Like, she's thinking a trap might be something that could be of interest and maybe help her gain some foothold there and send some resources back to her family,
Okay.
like undead people for a petting zoo. But that can be another project for another time. But yes, training would be good then.
Okay. So I'm going to just double check the house sheet because I'm going to see if you have any special training upgrades. No. So do you want Kara to get progress toward a special ability, toward improving a body action, mind, or spirit?
Um, in this case, I believe it would be more towards the mind, like something like Tinker.
Sure. Yeah, and when the mind track fills, you can take 1 point in any of those actions. So you don't have to say,
Okay.
I'm training Tinker. You can say, I'm training Mind, and then when the track fills, you get to pick.
Ew, fun.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
a training will give you 1 XP, which, because this game advancement goes a little bit slower, that makes training a little bit more, a little bit nicer of an option. Did you have a sense of what you wanted that other action to be? A project or something else?
Um, the other action,
If not,
I
I can
mean,
go to Greg and we can talk about Karevis, and that'll give you a little bit of time to think.
yes, and also, if Caravis wants to relax by catching some drinks, and I can learn more about this dead person, that could be I could be like a de-stressing buddy as well. I can help out with that.
Okay. So let's come over to Karevis. You have had a, I don't know, some amount of disquieting day. I don't know. How is Karevis feeling about having walked where the desecrated dead have walked?
Yeah, it's not great for Karevis because Karevis is, first of all, having the dead walk is not great, and secondly, having the dead walk when it's a veteran is something that Karevis is not going to like. So I actually think that probably Karevis would be, I'm guessing training. I'm guessing that Karevis would actually be spending the time trying to build up, sort of like, we need to be ready for when the time happens. And I mean, Karevis generally is a fairly, certainly honor driven, but usually, with a smile and a wink type of thing, type of guy. But I would say that Karevis is all business. This is very Captain America at the beginning of Winter Soldier, hitting the bag across the room type of deal.
Sure.
That's basically, I think, what he's probably doing. So I'm thinking that I would be training probably, uh, yeah, that I would probably be training body.
Sure.
Although, do I only get the one? If I train, I only get one, like, point in that.
Correct.
Or
There is a coterie upgrade that you can take that would give you 2 XP per training. Um, and I do remember that you all have a coterie basically level up that you can spend. So I would say, if you wanted to, we can go to the coterie sheet and decide that now. And if you were to, I don't know, lobby for body training as one of the upgrades, you might be able to benefit from that. Or if we did mind training, I would be happy to go back and award Kara a 2nd XP there. So with these upgrades, you can gain 1 special ability, or you can gain 2 basically circles of upgrades. So that's unique upgrades or universal upgrades. So that could be things like improved quality of gear, supplies, weapons, or tools. It could be training. It could be something like a workspace that is just for your coterie that will help you with projects. or a ritual space for like arcane projects, or a private library for your kind of revenant hunting research. And these are all on the House of Vorster sheet.
Yeah, I see those. So if we upgrade, so you're saying if we upgrade like body, it means that every point that we put into body becomes 2 points?
Every training action during downtime
Right.
awards 2 XP instead of 1, to be precise.
Right. So what we're doing is we're putting in a gym, which is, I think we can all agree, well overdue. Clearly we need a private gym. I think we can have in there like a monster dummy so that, Kara can have can be doing some monster hunting. And I like Karevis's idea probably is just like a monster, just like making this monster. There's just this bizarre mix of figures, like a scarecrow with an arm out of its head or something, and just like the monsters that you deal with. It's something like this, right? It's a combination. It's your worst nightmare, right? That type of thing. And then
Zelfa
probably
fuming
for
in the background.
Yeah, and then Zelfa would have like a dummy, which would be an exact replica of the guard that we didn't realize. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. No. But no, I'm thinking. Well, this is the way I would pitch it. I mean, if I'm talking to Kara and to Zelfa, and I'm guessing that Lutris and Lutris and Gensia are probably like super occupied, and they're like, I already talked to them. They're fine with whatever we choose to do. No, I wouldn't lie, but I would say the truth is we understand the situation that we're facing, and there is danger here that we're not going to be able to control. I'm hoping we can get out of this diplomatically, but the reality is that there's a good chance there's going to be bloodshed at some point, and then we need to be ready. We can't simply keep hoping that our charm will get us through. Not when the dead walk the streets. We need something that will allow us to be more trained. We need the shape that the guards are in here is deplorable. We need better situations. And I've got a perfect example of how to do it. We need to increase our gains completely.
So is Karevis going to order some Savanai protein powder?
Yeah, exactly. And
this is your breakfast now.
I finished that. I'm humming, no, real American. Right. Some classic pro wrestling music. But I mean, jokes aside, Karevis is deadly serious about being concerned that the house is not physically defended well enough yet, and needs improvement in that area, and so would advocate for the gym, the training gym.
So what are y'all thinking, either in character or as players, in terms of upgrade options? We've gotten kind of Greg / Karevis's pitch.
I mean, in character, put an archery range in there and let me practice my hunting, and I think that's a great idea.
So let me double check. I think the funny thing here is that hunt is under mind, so technically it would be a different upgrade.
Oh, that's funny.
So you can have an archery range, but it would be, if it were part of the body upgrade, it would be like 20 yards and low and under, because it would need to be archery done with skirmish versus long range archery. And this is just a little bit of a weirdness in how the mechanics work.
Can I practice skulking in the gym? Can I just skulk around the gym?
Yeah, because
that's not weird, right?
Body training upgrades would be skulk, skirmish, maneuver, and wreck. And so that would be like a Dishonored / Assassin's Creed parkour course or something.
It's the difference between a marksman's range and one of those obstacle courses where you walk into a crowded room and suddenly enemies pop out and you have to shoot them.
Right.
Yeah.
No one is testing your actual skill at long range with a bow. We just want to make sure that if somebody approaches you at 6 feet, you know whether or not to shoot them.
I just feel like Karevis is going to be like, ha, with his sword, and I'll be in the background just doing Captain Kirk maneuvers between all of the various tumbles, scrolling around.
And then
just repeated tumbles.
And then Nara hears about it, and sometimes every so often the body that pops up to threaten you is like a real person because she snuck into the course.
And I'm just shooting
like,
everything.
oh my
You know what? Yeah,
gosh.
I'm sold. But Zelfa, what are your thoughts?
Um, I am not particularly good with most weapons. I try my very best. So I do think that getting some more practice would be useful for me. Out of context, what I mean by this is I have no dots in anybody's skills.
Perfect
So I
example.
could
You need the gains. You need those gains.
Okay, so
I'm in favor.
that would be one of your 2 upgrades. Excuse me. Other options: dedicated transportation. So you'd have your own horses and a carriage, and drivers to go with it. You might have private apartments where you have apartments in the Vorster compound rather than wherever it is that you are living outside of the compound. And then
Work-life balance.
there's the
Life
unique
balance.
upgrades that are specific to Vorster. So that's Vigilant, To the Last, and Thoroughbreds. And for those, I would have to go and get my copy of the book because the way that the stream is set up, I cannot open other tabs because it would go in front of our screen.
Just cause. Okay.
So I can go and get that real quick.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying that, as I mentioned before, I've heard now our own dedicated horses. I've heard thoroughbreds.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you did say.
I report, you decide. Like, you know. No, I mean, like, I mean, I could also see a scenario, by the way, if we get 2 upgrades, then if I'm understanding this correctly, I think that means we could upgrade House Forster twice ish.
So you can get
No?
two upgrade circles.
But we could switch, but we could do them in 2 different things, yes?
Correct. So
So-
you could have To the Last and the body training.
Right. Or thoroughbreds and
Or
horse
vigilant.
training. Or vigilant. Yeah, we need to find out what each of these do.
Yeah.
Separate from that, I wonder, we could also do something for the mind if there was something for Zelfa and, Gensia. Lutrus is kind of would do maybe either body or mind, but we could also do that. Okay, so what do these do? What do these actually do, Mike?
So Vigilant, the coterie gains access to detailed maps of old smugglers' tunnels and catacombs. You know every avenue of entry into the city and how best to defend them. You already have Incorruptible. Your retinues and colleagues all gain the loyal trait. To the Last Man says when you hire a retinue of blades, it functions as 1 tier higher. So a retinue of blades is like swords people and fighty types. And Thoroughbreds, you are granted access to the house's stables. You can get anywhere in the city much faster than your rivals, and few can stand against a charge of Battaglia Chevaliers. So Thoroughbreds is kind of like having dedicated transportation, but better. Because
Right.
you get cool horses.
Listen, I'm just no. I do like, I mean, leaving the horse part aside, which I totally think fits everything narratively. Leaving that aside, though, Karevis, I think, would be in favor of the training and vigilant, because having maps of everywhere in the area and knowing how to defend them, that's the part I think that Karevis is like, how to defend these things would be super useful. So that would be my thought about upgrading if we were going to do those 2. Although if we're doing that, we're just upgrading. Or did you put the circle in already?
I
Mike?
did.
you? Okay, so
In
that
body.
means that, and that's just done. Now we just have that. That will be done.
Yeah.
If we're doing this.
If you decide that you want to not do body, I will just untick that thing and we'll do the other one.
Yeah, I love the idea of vigilant and body. I think that would even be good for stuff with Zelfa. If you want to undercut what they're doing, to the Deidre or whatever, it would be helpful to be able to, if they're harassing the porters, cutting them off so that they can't go down the streets they expect to do that. Constantly striking at their their rear flank every time they try to do something to the porters. not to mention the benefit to the house overall. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I could see that having value. If not, then I would say that we should also have training in the mind so that we can feel like it's balanced for everyone. But
Right.
Karevis definitely is thinking defense here. So that's why body and the vigilant would be his choices, I think.
On both narrative and mechanical grounds, I am inclined to agree with you. I think both of those would actually be very cool.
Okay. Marie, how does that strike you?
Question.
Yeah.
Could the horses be unicorns though? No, I'm kidding. I think narratively and in I think for both, yeah, I think Kara would think knowing more about the city's layouts and being able to kind of traverse those areas quicker, like just because we know different routes or
Right.
knowing where some attacks might come from. I think that would make us more vigilant.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think the point in body. I mean, even though that Karavis spoke very loudly about how everybody wasn't like trained enough, and now everybody is like, dude. Then yeah, yeah. I think that both those things do make sense for where we're at right now.
So the body training, I think, is somewhat easy to imagine. You know, some house resources are spent upgrading the kind of the training yard and putting in like a basically a parkour course or whatever. I'm curious how you all think the messengers would gain access to the elements of Vigilant. How do you get detailed maps of old smugglers' tunnels and catacombs and gain the knowledge of every avenue of entry into the city? Is that about getting it from somebody? Is it about asking the Vorster leadership for resources like this? Or is it something else?
There is a thing that I like narratively, but you are free to veto it. So what was particularly noteworthy when we had the conversation about the catacombs is, while Nara in disguise has a vague impression of where they would have moved, the mist on the evening when the catacombs were raided, did severely impact one's ability to catch up with that group somewhat. So it would stand to reason that if Nara knows that information, they would have made it available for us, because that would be a valuable lead for us to follow up on, and then would have just hinted idly, this is also very useful information in general.
Okay, so is that kind of leveraging what she and other Vorster spies have like learned and information that they've put together? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah.
My alternative, I mean, yeah, that works. Also, I think that my contact, Father Cartagano, who has been a priest here for a long time, there is the thing about catacombs being connected to churches.
Right.
And I think there's something to be said for the idea that Father Cartagano could probably be like, you know, our God protects us from many secrets or something, you know, and also that would be a place where he could have smuggled stuff in and out if need be. So that's another possibility. Or it's possible we could do both, and that maybe Zelfa has, like, you know, contacts through Nora that gets her this information. In the meantime, I also am able to like hook up, you know, connect the other side of the map, basically using Father Cartagano's thing, and putting those things together means that we have access to stuff that no other house really has at the same level, because we've used multiple contacts to get there. So.
Right, because if 5 or 6 different well-connected individuals (parentheses 5 different PCs) all reached out to get resources with a specific intent, I think that combining idea makes a lot of sense to me.
Especially since we've already narratively established that a lot of those pathways are older than the establishment of Valloward.
Right.
So it stands to reason that not everybody knows all of those pieces of information anyway. We might still even learn, here's a tunnel that no one has discovered. We're the first to discover it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
I actually have a follow-up question for Mike if we do Vigilant. But first, I guess we have to decide if we're doing Vigilant. So are we?
I am in agreement with Vigilant. I would like very much to have the element of surprise on our enemies.
Okay.
I agree.
So it's incumbent on y'all. When you think Vigilant will give you a bonus on an engagement roll or would give you a bonus die for something, to call it out and say, hey, Mike, we've got Vigilant. What do you think that does for us here? But
The
Greg, you had a
keyword
question.
is just catacombs. We're just going to be like, guess what? Catacombs, y'all. Catacombs.
So it's going to be like that one stretch of sewer in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, which gets used every time. Yeah. Well, actually, that's exactly. It's funny you mentioned that. That's exactly what I was going to ask. Was about Buffy. No, not about Buffy. I was going to ask whether, having gotten Vigilant, I think Karevis would. So, assuming we did the things that we said, then Karevis, and will come back to me with the whole body training in a minute. But the other thing I think that I would be doing is poring over the maps of these catacombs, having put this together based on what Zelfa got and what I found out from Father Cardigano, and seeing if there are catacomb tunnels that reach under Veterans Rest. Because another possibility that we did not consider is that perhaps it's not the case that the dead are just walking around among the people, but rather that the dead escaped and now have found their way into the catacombs, which means that we would allow us to go hunting for undead monsters in catacombs. Not that I can think of any monster hunting, but I'm just saying, like,
Okay.
maybe.
So what is the mechanical end to that?
Oh, you mean, well, I don't know, man. I just think about the narrative. No, no, that's not it. There is a mechanical benefit, I think, in that what I want to know is whether those catacombs connect from, let's say, House Ferrist to Veterans Rest, or House Sapphire to Veterans Rest.
Okay.
Is this the kind of thing where one of the ways they could have gotten in and gotten out without our super awesome double agent, who apparently is really good at just seeing us but not good at seeing them, whether or not that might have allowed them to escape notice, and that would give us information, and maybe we could track something to from one place to the other.
Sure. I think,
and if we find that's true, we could also like set a trap later on, but at first would want to see whether the catacombs extend other Veterans Rest, because I seem to remember the Veterans Rest, that graveyard I think is older than even when it was called Veterans Rest. As I recall, I think it was described, it was like made Veterans Rest later or something.
I think
because it started as a graveyard and then it was, right? Am I right about that? I think
my recollection is that it is the oldest Valloward made graveyard on the island.
Right. So that's what makes me think that this is useful for that reason. So mechanically, it would be useful to be able to further along this path. And
So you
I know that I know you didn't necessarily want us to go directly after the person that you set up last, but this has definitely been on Crevis's mind. Like, this is not a loose end he wants untied.
So I did introduce the Find the Revenant clock. It's still on the table, so you're welcome to put some effort into filling it. If Kara were to want to join you, that would certainly give you a +1d to whatever action you were rolling. What action do you think Karevis would be using to kind of run down that information? Whether that is just legwork himself or...
Yeah, for my own clarification, so we get two actions in downtime?
Correct. So if you did training, you would get that 2 XP in body instead of 1, and then you would get one other action, which would, I guess, in this case, be a long-term project.
Okay, let me do this quickly, just so I don't forget. So 2 in body, which means I only have 1 more to go.
Right.
Before I get another 1 into skirmish is probably what I'll end up doing. We'll see. So I mean, what I think I would be doing, I mean, I think that isn't this a kind of a classic survey? I mean, it really feels to me like this is almost literally surveying the plans and trying to arrange these things. I mean, I understand that the word doesn't mean quite that in this game, but it's pretty close. and it is looking for something which might bring us to our enemies. And yeah, if Kara is willing to do this, see, I would love the idea of this being the case where we find it and then we literally go monster hunt. Like, I wasn't joking. Like that might set up beautifully, for that.
Okay.
And again, and it would give Zelfa a chance to be able to see places during which Zelfa could do all these things to undercut, the people that are trying to harass the porters and all that.
Yeah, that has to be a different action though.
No, I know. I'm listen. I'm doing one for all three. No,
so
yeah.
you're going to make a fortune roll with 3 dice,
Okay.
2 from your survey and +1 from Kara's assistance if she's going to join in, which it sounds like Marie says yes.
Oh,
so
yes.
roll fortune with 3 dice.
Roll fortune with 3 dice.
It's my my hobby button that he's hit. So
Okay, so that's 5, 2, 6, which means that you're going to fill 3 ticks in one
Hell
go,
yeah.
which is very nice. I'm going to choose a side. We're going to go boop, boop, boop. So that is half full in one go.
Nice.
And to represent that, I think what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of narrate a short montage where you all are kind of walking through those various catacombs and tunnels and kind of orienting yourself to them in terms of taking the information that you've been given and collating the maps and then using this particular project as the practical application for kind of putting the vigilant thing into play. And what you're gonna find out is that it does not seem very likely that this was an inside job by Sapphire.
It does not seem likely?
The way, basically the route from the closest catacomb or tunnel that you can get to from Veterans Rest to Sapphire has had a cave-in, and it does not look recent. So they would have had to go a longer way.
Okay, so then the obvious follow-up to that is, what do we see as the closest route from Veterans Rest to one of the great houses? Or if it is the great house, like, is there a direct route to, say, House Fairest? Also, by the way, hi to QCG Queen's Court Games, Aaron. Hello, Aaron. Welcome. And also, thank you to our amazing audio editor, Rudy Basso, who, yes, as mentioned, as Brandon said, the Hamlin-inspired RPG, but also our incredibly gifted audio editor for Speculate, and also is gifted audio editor for my podcast for Curse of Strahd, and soon to be for the Shire Adventures podcast too. And you should hire Rudy for all your audio needs because, and you should buy his game. So yes. But anyway, yeah. So is there a way that I can tell that, Mike, about if I'm able to see if there's a more obvious direct route? Also, can Kara be tracking as a part of that to see if there is an area underneath the tomb of Veterans Rest or nearby where they would have accessed these tunnels, to give us a sense of like general direction of where the dead might have walked if they did come down this way?
Yeah,
or not?
So I think, there's process of elimination with the tunnels. And then Kara, you're able to use your specific skills because these tunnels underground, some of the traces that people might leave are not going to be as readily worn away by the elements. And so you're able to see, well, here's a cluster of boot imprints, and from being a hawk and keeping track of weather that, okay, the last time it rained was here, and that water would have gotten down into this tunnel, which means that older boot prints would have gone away, and the newer boot prints would have been people using these tunnels since the last time it rained, when this earth was softened. And you get, okay, it's this many different types of boots, and that track right there is a boot design that has not been used in centuries. And so that will lead you, because the revenant was resurrected with his normal clothes, and so a very out of place boot design kind of is a great sign and kind of track that you're able to follow. And what you can do is you follow it out, not to a safe house or not to kind of a hold of any of the great houses, but instead to a decommissioned watch building, which has been turned into a bar. A bar, yes, that is called the Broken Shield. And not too much work after that, I think, would be able to tell you that this bar is associated with the faction known as the Shield Breakers, who are members of the City Watch who were either fired or quit and have become vigilantes.
The Shield Breakers, huh?
It's not definitive evidence that faction was involved, but it's definitely something worth following up on. And what you've learned so far is currently pointing you away from the idea that this is a project of one of the great houses. But 3 of 6, there's more to learn.
Interesting.
That's good.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Like these sort of bitter veterans are like, we need to turn to the bitterest of all veterans. Who's more bitter than a dead veteran? Let's go get this guy.
Right. And what is House Ferrist associated with in their origins?
Is it? Yeah, I was going to say, do we know just from our general knowledge if the Shield Breakers have any associations with House Ferrist or Sapphire for that matter? I'm probably not, but I'm just.
That's probably worth its own follow-up.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
I would say you are not aware of a strong positive association.
Okay. So I probably would look back at Kara having seen this. I love this image, by the way, of like Kara tracking, and I've got the lantern, as we're going along the catacombs or whatever. And then, bringing us to this spot and me being like, seeing that it's the place that leads to like the Shield Breakers. So I'm looking at the map and being like, well, it seems that someone's decided to get above themselves. I kind of look down and around and I'm like, you think they did this on their own? This is their own idea?
A bunch of ex-Watch members who turned mercenaries? I don't have that much respect for the Watch. And in this case, no. They had to have someone else helping them. They were hired out to do this. We just have to figure out who exactly is paying them.
I'm sort of like, yes. Who would pay to get one of theirs? Unless Ferris wants to recapture Pax's glory. It looks like we've got to do some more work topside to figure out what's going on down here.
They're probably trying to throw us off the trail by bringing us here, hire the underlings, and then have it change hands from there. This should be a fun hunt, though.
I agree. And then we find in the door like a big V for House Vorster. We're like, God damn it! Just like flip tables, like. Well, you're a quadruple agent.
You walk into the bar and somehow every person in the bar is Nara.
They all turn and we're just like, what the?
Well, it turns out
this incredibly deluxe, diverse world all boils down to one house and one NPC. Like the entire thing.
Just Nara quick changing at the speed of light.
Right, like
there's only one person in all of Valloward. It's Nara.
Because I came up with a bit of like, oh well, what if the spy was actually like twins or triplets? But I don't think I'm going to use that shtick here. It's cool, and I'll use it. I'll use it elsewhere. Yeah. This is also somewhat inspired by something from Friends of the Table, which I will not specifically spoil because y'all should listen to that show. They're very popular.
Many episodes, though, Mike.
I started with Marielda, and I think it was a good place to start, especially for people who are Forged in the Dark fans. But yeah, you've gotten some good information. You've
Yeah.
kind of started to internalize the information and some of the ways to move through these tunnels and catacombs and things that you've assembled this kind of map and contact network of. And so that is 2 actions for Karevis and 1 remaining each for Kara and Zelfa. This is probably a good place for us to take a short break. And so we'll probably take a 5 on the short end, 10 on the long end minute break. During that break, we would encourage you all who are watching and listening to also take a break, whether that is to drink a beverage, ideally for many a water, use the restroom, move around, stretch, whatever it is that will let you most healthily enjoy the rest of the show in whatever way you see fit. A break, as we say, a break for us is a break for you. And then we will be back with the rest of our session of Court of Blades, Valloward. Dun dun dun. Hello, we are back with Court of Blades, Valloward, our Speculate series with a cool setting created collaboratively with these lovely folks and other science fiction and fantasy writers, including, well, it's not including, it's the two people, Rhiannon Held and Primi Mohammed. They are not able to join us tonight. They're off doing other activities. They are missed, but we are happy to proceed, and we'll kind of get them back on screen next time if we can. We return to the messengers of House of Vorster as they have been on the trail of the Revenant resurrected from Veterans Rest, as well as developing the resources of their coterie and pursuing their own individual plans. So to Zelfa or Kara, what do you want to do as your second downtime?
I already know
Okay.
that Zelfa wants to cause some trouble for
Okay.
this new enemy
Sure.
that has been established. So I'm pretty sure the thing that I should be doing in this moment, now that I know Achilles is responsible for the thing, should in fact be so I'm of two minds. In fact, no. I know exactly what I'm going to do for narrative purposes. I am going to perform an intrigue.
Okay. So I think the way to scope an intrigue that I'm going to suggest here is when the intrigue is complete, I'm asking you, what happens when you fill the clock? What has changed? Kind of the goal that you've accomplished.
The thing that I want to happen is essentially like a large scale embarrassment of Aquili. Like the result should be that he has resoundingly lost status in a way that should reveal the inner workings of the Bank of Valloward to as many people as possible, in a way where the consequence of that revelation is some manner of financial redistribution.
Okay.
Not all of it, obviously, because the system is very difficult like that. But I do want, like, I'm essentially attempting to reveal the big short. Like,
right. So that's a lot.
mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna say, do you see, Brandon? Do you see this as a over the course of several social seasons project for Zelfa, or is this like a short-term objective?
I do think that he has, given the power that we have already established about him, I do believe that it stands to reason that this is a season-long project, if only because we have already established as a result that other people are invested in that project.
Right.
So
okay.
Yeah.
So I think...
I wish it were easier, but it sounds very hard.
I think this is going to be an 8-step intrigue.
Okay.
And so that is going to take a fair amount of doing. I'm just going to find a place where to put it. But when you do an intrigue, you are able to operate at that scale. I'm going to double check the text for intrigues. I'm curious, what is Zelfa's first step, and how are you wielding resources at the level of an intrigue?
So I think my first step, very obviously, would my first step would take the shape somewhat of continuing to do the work that I presently am doing, but just more effectively based on the information that I have. That I am now advocating more soundly for my clients based on the implication that there is some greater knowledge that I have gained, that I essentially know which tools in the machinery of capital I should be leveraging to, for instance, get porters access to effective housing. That implies that I know something, but doesn't say that I know something.
Okay. So, yeah. So the thing to keep in mind about intrigues is that intrigues include racing clocks. So we have an 8 clock equally in the bank, where if you fill that clock, you will have ruined Supervisor Achille, and the Bank of Valloward will have lost enough standing that basically the way for them to not get they will hemorrhage money rather than collapse. But there is now a 6 clock that is competing with that says the bank wins. And if that 6 clock fills before your 8 clock, the bank will have redrawn the shape of Valloward in a way that consolidates a lot of money toward the bank and away from the kind of working people of Valloward. And so this is not like a normal long-term project. Like there will be consequences if you roll less great.
Cool, fun, delightful. I'm beginning to think I made an error.
So the GM will state the position effect of your rolls before you carry out your intrigue actions. The default position is controlled, but your target's tier, available assets, and number of ticks on your enemy's racing clock might mean that you carry out your machinations from a desperate position. Failure marks the appropriate number of ticks on your target's racing clock, though these may be mitigated with a resistance roll. So I think you're probably going to start in a risky position here because the Bank of Valloward is a larger faction and they have a little bit of a lead on you.
Okay.
What action is this going to be in terms of your first, like your opening salvo, moving toward exposing the bank?
This, I believe, is sway, because I think that the thing I'm doing is essentially going to court, making appeals to several responsible house members, etc.,
Right.
to leverage the resources for my clients.
Okay.
I've also remembered that I have an ability that I did not remember I had the last time, which is attention to detail.
Okay.
Because I literally gained it last session. I totally forgot that I had it.
So what does that say?
Take +1d to your roll when working on a long-term project.
Well,
it says other things, but it also says this.
That sounds fantastic. So with sway, you'll have 2 dice, and you'll get +1 from attention to detail. That's a pretty good idea. I think... +1. I think going to court as an individual means that you're going to be at risky limited on this intrigue roll. You can push yourself for effect, or you can tell me about gear that you have or some other ways that you think you would be able to increase your effect with this initial kind of legal maneuvering.
So it would be absolutely terrible. Like in the real world, a small pricey gift is a bribe, so I'm not gonna do that.
Well, I guess the question is, a gift to who?
Yeah, like in this circumstance, it would
Also,
be very risky
Valloward
to
runs on
just.
bribes.
Oh my god,
Right?
I'm trying to be. I'm trying to do this the clean way.
Time I tried to get out, they pulled me back in.
Right. Well, like, I guess the question is, like, who is Zelfa? Is Zelfa the person who will not cut corners? Or is Zelfa the person who will play the game to save the players?
I do think Zelfa is the kind of person whose pride mandates performing the system at its rules, because being the altar comes with this weird kind of double consciousness where if I play the game the way everybody else does, they're going to see me as corrupt or corruptible, not because I did this thing, but because I'm the altar.
Right.
And if I don't, then I'm not worth the effort, which means that I keep working very hard to be very accurate about the law, even laws that I hate. Like, I'm thinking of, there's this, like, I can't remember the full context of the story, but there's this story of a historical Japanese lawmaker who, in the business of maintaining law and order, would hyperfixate on laws that he did not agree with by following the letter of the law perfectly, so people would know that the law was dumb.
Right.
So I feel like that's a lot of Zelfa as well.
Yeah.
Being hyperfixated on performing the law in ways that reveal that the system is poorly structured. And I feel like that has worked very well so far, and they're not gonna stray from it now.
Okay. So you can push yourself to get to standard, or you can, I think the lady's favor here is +2 exposure for the coterie. As people take notice of you using resources, and that notice gets back to the coterie.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to do that. Can influence benefit me in this situation?
So influence normally will give you bonus dice rather than effect. If you spent one of the coterie's favor, I would definitely give you a plus effect. On faction relationships, you have one favor with House of Vorster, but that's the only favor right now. So that would definitely need to be cleared with the other players.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to do that as well. So I guess I'm taking the risk with the things that I have. Risky, okay. And I will take... Yeah, I'll take 2 stress.
Okay. Push it to risky standard?
Yes.
Okay. Then that looks like risky standard with 3 dice. So make sure to give yourself 1 bonus die for your sway.
Standard, 1 bonus die. Please give me a 6. Please give me 2 6s.
That would be rad.
Hey, yeah.
Oh
what
dear.
Did I get?
3 1 3.
Yike. Jeez.
So this is going to be 2 ticks on the bank wins, but you may resist this consequence. If you resist, the clocks will be 0-0.
Yeah. I have to resist. This is going poorly for me already.
You're going up against the system.
Yeah, I have to resist. So I assume, I guess I'm resisting with spirit.
I think this is spirit. You could use your special armor.
Alright, yes. Resist a complication related to suspicion or persuasion for your coterie when you are present.
It just means you won't have it for the next errand.
I mean, the next errand doesn't require me worrying about a persuasion-related consequence for the most part.
Okay.
So I will.
All right. So mark your special armor, and give me just a quick rundown of how, despite not making progress, you are able to obstruct the bank's progress.
Right. So I think the thing that I do is I am making a case for a continuance from the full eviction of the porters in the area. Um, and opposing counsel has made the argument that they want to have the case thrown out. Which shouldn't be happening right away anyway, but that's what this preliminary hearing has turned into. And I managed to have the dismissal of the case overruled without having any confirmation about the actual state of the porters as they are. So even though the case is still bound to continue, I haven't heard anything about whether the porters are allowed to still stay in their residences until that point.
Okay.
So it stands to reason that they're probably still going to be forcefully evicted until the result of the case, rather than still being allowed to stay there as a result. So they might. So I'm still hoping to get them their housing, but for the time being, they're at least still on the street, which sucks.
Okay. All right. And for Kara.
When I helped Caravis, was that my extra action, my second action, or?
No, if you wanted to also roll in that same scene or build on that as a long-term project action, you absolutely could.
I think Kara is a bit of a hyper focuser, which makes her good as a bounty hunter,
Sure.
And a hunter generally. So I think that once they get as far as they did in that hunt, I don't know that she'd be like, yes, let's just go home for the night now. I think she would try to continue pushing the action forward.
Okay. And what action are you going to use to continue that hunt?
Well, I mean,
hunt is okay.
Yeah,
it's just literally the word I used.
Yeah, I was going to say the hunt action.
Yeah.
In whatever, yeah, I would like to use the hunt action.
Okay. And so from where you were, what do you think that next step for Kara is?
Well, there's two ways. I mean, there's either looking around the establishment to see if there's any tracks outside of there, or there's going inside of it and questioning people. Now, questioning people is not necessarily her favorite means. She prefers to just do the hunt. So I think she'd look around first to see if there's any hints or signs of either them leaving or a place where they could keep the dead, or like anything that seems out of place. I think she would look for that.
Okay. Great. So you're going to have 2 dice for your fortune roll. Did you enlist Karevis to kind of help you shadowing or skulking around?
I imagine so, unless he's like, no, I am going in and going to make friends with everyone. They will tell me where he is. Are you doing that?
No. I mean, if you need me to skulk, I will skulk.
Let's be skulk buddies while we hunt.
Yeah. I will do that. I'm going to try to be super charming while skulking, just to be clear.
And again, assists on downtime do not cost stress.
Okay.
So keep track of that. And that means that Kara is going to be rolling a 3-die fortune roll for this downtime action.
Okay, so I click on roll fortune.
Yep, and then it should ask you how many dice, and you'll mark 3, and then you can do submit.
Thank you.
All right. That's 5, 4, 2. On a 4 or a 5 is your highest die, you will get 2 segments. What I will say is if you spend 1 influence, you can increase your result level from 2 to 3 and finish this clock. And what that will mean is that you will know where the Revenant is at a given moment, or where the Revenant is a place that this person returns to often enough that you can follow up on it later.
And what is the price of an influence, if you will? Like, how does that?
Sure. So looking at your sheet, Okay, so you don't have any influence because you've not received the influence rewards from other missions.
So I have nothing to spend, which would be okay.
Or we look at the House of Vorster sheet, which has 4 influence. And to use that, you would just need buy-in from Greg and Brandon as players to use the coterie's influence, which would be 1 influence.
I'm just gonna pitch it to them, okay? I'm not quite sure what happened, but I know there's a dead veteran out there and we have to help lay him back to rest. I think that's only fair. And also, there was the whole double agent thing, and maybe if we close this earlier, it'll be a little bit less embarrassing in the long run. So maybe if we just close this particular part, it might be worthwhile. If you two, of course, feel that that is wise at the moment. But I don't feel good about having a dead veteran out there for reasons that we're not sure why.
I mean, I've been concerned about this from the beginning. So yes, I think we need to get rid of this dead person who's wandering the streets, one way or the other. I agree.
Raising the dead is a taboo I'd like for others to not hear has already spread.
Mm.
So I'm inclined to side with you.
Okay, so we mark 1 influence off of the coterie sheet. And I will give you a quick montage of information. So we get like a time lapse of a day into a night into a morning, where Karevis and Kara are moving slowly and everyone else is moving fast, as you are kind of watching and shadowing this broken shield bar. And, you know, people are coming and going. People go upstairs, lights are on, you know, pipe smoke comes out. And it seems like the 2nd and 3rd floor of this bar are some combination of safe house and living quarters, which you learn is because the proprietors of this bar are basically part of the Shieldbreakers faction and, you know, give aid and succor to this group. Studying them, you get the sense that they are more vigilante than mercenary. Most of their attention is basically doing actions against the Watch, where they believe the Watch have done wrong or have ignored problems. And then I think from like across the street, because after a little while people start to take notice, at about, you know, almost midnight, with kind of spare silver light from the moon and kind of like a warm evening that gestures toward summer and the wet season, you know, a lot of humidity in the air, you see very old boots, a very old military jacket, but then with a newer modern jacket over it, as a fairly pale individual with 3 people around them walk up the back stairs all the way to the 3rd floor of that building. And you can confirm the next day that the fallen soldier, Vilanso, is being quartered / kept captive up on that 3rd floor. So you could move now. We could totally change tracks, and you could go that, or you can put a pin on that / you know, keep eyes on them. And I think in the process, you are able to identify that one of the people who comes and goes, not in that 3, but others, is a noble-born knack named Willem Sands. Sands being a kind of orphan / bastard name for, it's mostly used for Vallowed unrecognized heirs on the island. That's like, if you hear Sands from somebody, it's because they want, like, they're using a family name. And a lot of people, like in overall social stuff. They're not necessarily using family names, or the family names that they're using are more like for Valloward, they're occupationally oriented. But a little bit of research in the house can tell you that Sans is a unrecognized heir of Sapphire. And that's your connection back to Sapphire, not the tunnels.
Okay.
Called it. I knew that Sapphire had something to do with it. Those punks. I immediately draw my sword and charge at House Sapphire.
Okay. Cool. That sounds like an assault plan.
Just kidding.
Oh.
But yeah, that's so they were bought off by House Sapphire, right? So I can imagine sort of figuring that out and just being like, I told you it had something to do with him.
Yes. You're very good at reading people.
No, I'm just good at finding people who are fools. That's what we're looking at here. We need to go talk to the rest of the house. See what we can do about either confronting House Sapphire with this information, telling our superiors, or and I kind of glance up the stairs where the pipe smoke and all that is coming, like perhaps eliminate the problem before anyone knows that it exists. What is House Sapphire going to do? Be mad at us because we went to their mercenary house and admit that they were the ones who paid in the first place?
To bring back the dead to life. Yeah.
Exactly.
But I think when you and Karevis return from like that fateful night when you saw Vilanso, Red Crow is waiting for you in the Vorster foyer. Tell me a little bit about Red Crow and how you know them.
So Red Crow is wait, I have my notes here. Red Crow, we met earlier on when I was hunting on a different island than the one that I was born in, trying to hunt for different kind of monsters, trying to get different products. Red Crow found me, and she's an older hunter, very wise, quick, taught me a few things, definitely, and taught me also to respect other people's lands and ways and to just maybe stick to my borders. And it was a surprise to me when I came to work with the houses and when I came to go into the cities, if you will. I was surprised to see that she was actually working um, in the city quite a bit. I'm still not quite sure what she does, but I know that she's a great resource to me, gives me a lot of great tips, and is a fun drinking buddy to boot. So I do trust her. She is what I would consider my mentor.
Great. And so she is waiting for you in the house receiving room. There's the foyer and then there's some receiving rooms, and there's enough that people can be like sectioned off so they're separated from each other if there's different people with different business. But you're kind of informed of this when you kind of return to the household to give your report, and Red Crow basically walks out of the receiving room and like turns almost in like a military precision and kind of nods to you, and you're pretty sure it's because she can tell the sound of your walk from like 30 paces.
Would not surprise me in the least. I'll just say one moment to my friends, and I will walk towards Red Crow. Well met, friend. I'm surprised to see you here, but then I should never be surprised to where I find you. You seem to appear in strange places at strange times.
I find that surprising people is very advantageous, gets them off their feet, lets me see their weaknesses. And she kind of grabs your hand with both hands and kind of gives you a companionable shake. Does she know you as Litra or Kara?
She would mostly refer to me as Litra, my traditional name.
Okay. And she says, Litra, I'm very sorry to say that I need your help.
Of course, what do you need?
So I've been doing some work for the Sentinels here. They reached out for help. There's a Grove Strider. It's acting very, very strange. It's attacked several of the arborists. Nasty injuries. Something's wrong, and I've looked and I've poked around, and I need another set of eyes. I have my suspicions, but I don't want to be hasty. And and she kind of gestures to the house, this whole part of the context around the hunt, I think better than I do here.
Well, I'm still feeling my way through. I won't lie about that, but I do have some friends who let me figure it out. We could invite them along and solve this faster.
Okay. So I would pitch, if it's okay with y'all, that we then cut to the three of you in conversation with Red Crow. I don't think that there's anything necessarily special is going to emerge from relaying the information about Vilanso to house leadership, which we can just assume that you've done.
Okay.
Perfect.
And so context for all of y'all, just a little bit of exposition real quick. Grove Striders, Kara, are kind of big blue, actually almost blue green with a little undertones of brown. It's a little strange. Septipetal, or I guess sextipetal, like 6-legged things. If you know the chrysalids from XCOM 2, like the slightly smaller chrysalids, they're like those as panthers in forests, and they are called Grove Striders because their long legs will let them jump and climb through these large trees. And so they don't brachiate, they just climb and jump and skitter on that kind of branch level.
To be clear, they're 6-legged panther insects?
So the pantherness is more how they move. The
6-legged insect panthers, then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they native?
It just got more terrifying. Like every part of the description was like, that's even worse. They're
cool.
Like, and they are also dressed in clown makeup. I'm like, great, I'm out. That's great.
Right. It's was it Snake Clowns? Is it the Lego Batman movie? Anyway,
snake clowns in spider webs. Great.
So Zelfa, these are native to this island, and I'm curious what the Dialta name for them is. Is Grove Strider like a Vallowed version of their name, or do they have another name?
I think Grove Strider is the Vallowed name. And I think that this is the closest that the Vallowed name for a thing has not been utterly disrespectful to the fauna of this island.
Okay.
Because I don't think I have a word for the thing in the Alta, but I think that the transliteration for that word would be something like shrub wind.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. So both of you from your different sources would be surprised to hear one of these creatures attacking humans, because they seldom do. And so that's strange. And kind of Red Crow kind of walks you all through what she has done, which is laying snare traps, setting watches, kind of laying out, setting out the types of food that a Grove Strider would want. And the Grove Strider has gone for the food, but either not been stopped by the trap or just kind of like gnawed its way through the trap. This creature is more aggressive than expected and more tenacious. And Red Crow kind of in confidence says, I think somebody or something is egging it on. And that's why I wanted to, I need the back of one of the houses because I think this goes up to your level. And I'm here to deal with the creature and to protect the people of the Arborists Guild. If it gets involved in the houses, that's not my business. That's your business. So I figured we might be able to help each other.
Well, we can certainly try. I mean, this sounds like it's up our alley, so. And I'm curious to see what exactly would be egging on those creatures.
That's a good question. Well, could be magic. I don't know. My tools for dealing with magic are fairly limited. It's expensive stuff.
It is expensive and deadly.
I might ask at this point, because we're all talking to Red Crow, right?
Yeah.
At this point, so I might ask something along the lines of, not to put too fine a point on it, but who is bankrolling this operation, since it's not going to be House Forster, I don't think.
The Sentinels have been contracted by the Arborists Guild to take care of the creature problem.
I see. But you think these Sentinels are not enough, and hence you bring us into the mix, I suppose?
It's more that it's a strange case. I think it may connect to one of the great houses, and it's an excuse to see Litra.
And so I'm kind of like, well, I can understand that. And I sort of nod, and I'm like, all right, well, if we need to go get this panther insecting, I am ready to go when need be.
This will be good. This will help sharpen the skills you've been so concerned about. I merrily clap him on the back. Oh,
Right, exactly. I'm like, oh yes, that's exactly right. I wasn't really thinking of attacking insect panthers, to be honest with you, as part of it, but perhaps it is good to be prepared. All right, where do we think we can find this thing? When did the last attack happen?
Well, there's been some kind of sign every night. The thing is very, very wily, but I've got something of a sense of its path, route, territory. We can go now, and I have a pretty good sense of an area it'll be in. It's just a question of what are we bringing for light and how are we approaching? Are we going to try to observe? Are we going to try to confront, trap, trick, lure?
trap.
Challenge?
Hopefully we can watch it first. 9 times out of 10, I'm willing to bet something has viscerally changed about an animal's habitat that would potentially upset it, as most things are on this island. If we don't have to harm it, we shouldn't.
That would be great.
Did they usually attack at night?
That's when the attacks have been. They often hunt at night, but not exclusively, and so that's another thing that's a little strange. But yeah, I can take you where it should be, but I can't promise that we'll be able to contain it unless we're going all in.
I'd like to learn if anything has perhaps upset that ecosystem before we make any other decisions. Perhaps it might be just as easy as tidying up.
Sure.
I hope.
I feel like if that was the case, the arborists would have figured it out themselves, but perhaps I'm mistaken there and then overthink their skills.
It could be magic, or it could be that any number of our rivals might have decided to make a mess specifically to watch this thing do the harm that their soldiers might have otherwise. Again, better to observe first and make our conclusions later.
So, out of character, you would also know that the Green Sea, which is the name for that forest, which is the arborist's forest, is under the influence of House Fairest. So Fairest are the big house that are suffering as a result of this.
Cool. So if this goes well, we might be able to leverage some clout.
Could be.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like you want to do some scouting, so we can jump to the forest.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yep.
So what action do you think you would be taking to try to do scouting? Is this skulk? Is it hunt? Is it survey or something else? And this is to anybody.
I mean, I was gonna say though, probably it would be Kara who would probably, call the shot on this, but I would think, uh, necessarily think this is survey. This is probably more like skulk, but that also depends on whether Kara thinks that this is more about hunting.
I mean, right now we're observing it. I agree that we should be looking at it. I mean, we'll definitely be skulking because we don't want to scare it, or if we want to be able to observe it, it might also come and attack us, so we might
Sure.
not want that so much.
Mhm.
But also, I mean, just to give a second idea here, with the hunt, the good part about the hunt action is without attacking it, is we might be able to discern some of its patterns and some of its movements
Mhm.
and where it goes, where look at it from the point of view of what's changed about it and
Mhm.
how can I find this prey the next night.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
so I'd be more I'd turn a little bit more towards the hunt action because of that, because I think we want to study it right now more than just not be caught by it.
So if here's what I'll say, Kara. If
Mhm.
the two other members of the coterie and Red Crow are all backing you and you all are hunting together, I'll give you scale, which will take your risky limited to risky standard on this hunt because there's 4 people.
Okay.
If you want to do a group hunt, that's fine. I'm fine to let it be just Kara rolling, and then the others are kind of giving that scale. If you do a group action, you're more likely to get a higher result the more people have dice that they're able to contribute. But the leader of the group action will take stress equal to the number of players who don't roll at least a 4. So, Kara and Karevis, do either of you have anything in hunt?
I have 2 in hunt.
Karevis and
Um,
Zelfa.
I have no dots in hunt, and also Zelfa is probably not going to hunt regardless.
Okay. So maybe this is just Kara and Red Crow mostly.
Yeah, because I have nothing in hunt either.
Okay. So one of you could assist using the normal assist rules if we figure out what that looks like. And
Okay.
then we can make that roll.
All right. You're trying to, like, what's the end game here, Kara, for this observation, etc.?
The end game for this observation is hopefully, ideally, follow it to maybe even its lair or where it is and find out what exactly has upset it or what has changed the behavior of it.
Okay.
So it's kind of active observation, if you will,
Okay.
not just sticking to the shadows, but following it and hopefully prevent anyone from being injured by it. But
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's secondary.
So that we flank out, I'd say. It's going down the path. We have Zelfa and me on one side. You have Kara on the other side. Basically, making sure that we're able to monitor which side of the path, if it goes off the path suddenly, if it dives down, and just kind of move in that direction. We try to follow up the path. We follow it up the track with both sides covered. Would be what I would say.
cool. So
Shadowing its movements, basically.
Marie, that will then be a risky standard hunt with 1 bonus die.
Okay. So roll 3 dice then.
Yeah, so you can click on hunt on your sheet
Okay, hang on a second here. It is okay, hunt.
and risky
Perfect.
position, standard effect, and then 1 bonus die.
Position standard effect, 1 bonus die. Perfect. Rolling. This will be fine.
Okay. So 4, 3, 2 on that roll, which means that you do succeed. So I'm going to basically say that you'll get to ask 2 questions about what's going on here, and I'll give you some answers kind of through scene work, and then I'll tell you what the consequence is.
Okay. Um, the first question is there anything physically different about the animal, about the insect, the insect panther?
Yeah, it It is injured,
Okay.
and it is stronger than you would expect.
How is it injured?
It move like it had like I'm trying to give a description that is evocative but not too
Too revealing?
not something that's gonna make me too sad, because this is a living being.
Of course.
But it basically it moves like it has aches or burns or something.
Okay.
But it is also more agitated, more active. So it's definitely off. It's there are physical manifestations that match the fact that it's not behaving as expected.
Okay. Now, when you say it's stronger, is it stronger in a way that a wounded animal would act, or is it stronger as in like there is something hulking out in this thing, or?
Kind of both.
Okay, that's
So
interesting.
it feels like there's a bit of desperation and a bit of something else.
Getting serious. You've seen the Devil in the Dark original Star Trek episode, maybe, with the Horta. I'm getting
Yeah, of
serious
course.
Horta vibes from this. Like, um,
If I've seen that episode, it was a long, long time ago.
just the basic idea. They're chasing after this creature that's killing a bunch of miners on this planet. And it turns out the reason is that the miners broke through into this egg chamber. And every 30,000 years or something, everyone on the planet dies except one creature. It lays its eggs and then it takes care of them. And then all these new ones come out. And it can move through silicon, like move through rock, the same way most people move through oxygen. And Spock has to like mind meld with it and everything. But it's great.
Ah!
It's great Star Trek, because the whole premise is don't shoot and kill anything that you don't understand immediately. Like, instead, process it in a different way. It was always my mother's favorite episode, but it's
I
very much that same way of sort of like, so we don't understand it. It seems like it might be hurt. And then they're like, well, why would it be hurt? And so anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So
In that vein,
I'll count that as one question. You'll get one more.
Okay. Can I now, from my knowledge here, and this is just like I imagine at this point you would know, like they usually have a nest somewhere, or they usually have like a little, like a, do they stay in one spot usually?
So there's a few different options. You are able to track it to a kind of a hollow that goes down to the level of the root, and so the animal basically crawls into the middle of the middle of / underneath a tree, and kind of curls up and sleeps.
Um, and is it like, do they usually nest in the same place night after night, or are they kind of wandering animals?
I think they probably have a couple of different places that they nest, but then like if they were like feeding young or something, that then there would be like one place that they would come back to rather than like moving, babies.
Okay. If possible, and if you'll allow that as the second question, if you will, is I want to find out where it goes to nest after this. Where is it going? Does it have babies? Is its home destroyed? Does it look confused? Is it not finding somewhere to go? Like, because that could
Yeah.
impact its behavior.
And so you can track it to a nest. It involves a fair amount of staking out, because you get there and it's in the nest, and you're waiting until it like gets up and resumes hunting. But once it is out and done, you're able to kind of get up to the nest itself, and look around, and you can see old dried blood there. And Zelfa, you get bad magic vibes from this place.
Oh boy. Great. That's great. That's great.
what can I discern more about these bad magic vibes?
Yes, a study or survey or a channel would certainly give you information here. Channel will give you the most magic specific information.
Yeah, definitely channel.
Okay. Do you have any special implements or other things that would help you with magical detection on you?
I do not.
So you could mark arcane implements on normal gear.
Do I have? I do.
Yeah, that's just standard gear.
Okay, cool.
Because that would give you risky standard. And the risk is opening yourself up to magic is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the type of magic that could be used on a creature like this and whatever has been done to the land, right?
Please. The cultural impact of something like this would also be such that I would take stress for a bonus die here as well.
Okay. I think that works. So channel +1 die from a push, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the arcane implements so that you would be at standard. So that would be channel +1 die risky standard.
Okay. Please, A6. Just the one. A 5. Okay, cool.
Okay. So I'm going to reveal both of these consequences at once.
That sounds great.
Yeah, great.
I'm going to reveal both of how you're going to die at the same time.
The tree falls on you. Oh.
Yeah. Held by the thing which is driving it into your head.
So you've been there for some time, watching and waiting for the nest to be emptied out, and then Zelfa goes up and investigates. And on a 5, you get get the information. With the implements, you are able to kind of see or feel, but see. Like if this were a TV show, there would be a visual representation because that's like the dominant sense that we use there. But you sense a magical like rune that is carved into the interior of this nest, and you can tell that a lot of the blood in the nest is this creature's, but not all of it. And the stuff that's not that creature's is not its prey. It's something else. And what is being done here is that negative energy is being concentrated into this nest. And you believe that it's very likely that there is a matching rune on the creature itself that is locking in this connection. But this much magic on the ground means that doing this investigation, the corruption of these like painful, harmful, aggression-driving magics gives you some backlash, and you're going to take the level 2 harm. This is going to be an arcane harm that is soul seared. SOULSEARED.
Oh, fun.
You can resist this.
I can. I'm aware of that. I only have 2 points of unmarked stress. So I can either take this harm or suffer trauma.
Well, let's look and see if there aren't any other options.
Isn't this where all you Blades players just to start being like, don't you have a devil's bargain? Here's my devil's bargain, the equivalent. Like,
well, you could do.
Isn't that always the salvation point? Is the devil's bargain?
Do I want to experience a scandal in this moment?
So you could. Well, somebody could flash back to something. Flashback to having gotten something that would protect Zelfa in this moment.
I have baited and set.
But the other thing that I'm going to tell you is that 6 armed people in coats step out from trees and point crossbows at all 4 of you. And that's Kara's consequence.
That's where I'm like, all right, let's go. Flip out, flourish the sword. Let's go. Like, You know, I probably have a moment of somewhat relief where I'm just like, it's about time, you know, like
Oh,
because
somebody
I
I
get
can
to go after these
stab.
people.
Yeah.
I don't get to hurt the creature that probably got baited into this, and I'm just like, let's the hell with the skulk. Let's make this happen.
Okay. All right. Fun.
Pull out my bow. Ready.
We recognize the coats, by the way, Mike.
Do you recognize the codes?
They're actually from House Vorster. Of course they are. Of
No, I
course
think
they are. This
without
creature also works for House Vorster and is actually Nara.
without a roll, I don't think you can get anything off of them immediately. You could survey, but the danger there is that that uses the moment that you would need, and
Oh no,
like
no.
you kind of lose initiative.
Yeah, no, we're not surveying. We're
Okay.
surveying a sword in their gut is what
So
we're doing.
pause. These are both consequences. The people, like the basically ambush steps out from the trees, is also a consequence you could resist. Brandon, is Zelfa just taking that harm?
I am.
Okay. Does anybody want to resist the you are being ambushed by a half dozen people with crossbows and swords?
I do, because I have special armor, which is to resist a complication related to physical obstacles or being outnumbered for you and your coterie when you are present. And not only am I present, I'm pretty sure, though I am not a math guy, that we are outnumbered. I'm
Yes.
pretty confident that's the case.
Agreed.
So,
I special armor resist is what I'm doing.
so Greg, tell me how it is that Karevis is able to keep them from springing that surprise on you and getting the initiative.
I think I would say that I don't want to say paranoia, but my extensive vigilance. Okay, the joke version of this is that I've been sort of, you know, like when I was doing the whole thing, like training in the gym, I kept like also watching as Kara kept popping up like above the level as she was doing the sculpt testing. That's my joke. Exactly. I'm like, hi, I knew it. No, the real version is that I have been unsure about this whole thing for a while, and I have been a little bit paranoid about stuff over the last, you know, several weeks since we found out about what this whole business with the dead walking the earth and all that. And so my guess is that this has felt odd to me for a while. The fact that, because Kara was relating to us, like this seems like this is the creature seems to be in pain or something like that. So the whole thing felt wrong to me. So I would say that probably what I did was look around and be, not that I assumed there was an ambush, but that I assumed there was something else connected to it, either forcing the creature to do its will or something like that. And mechanically, by the way, I think a good way to handle this is when the six sort of, you said six people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when the six people step out of the trees, they are stepping out in a group, but we are in a forest.
Right.
And that means that if I run towards them and I push people behind trees and I yell back, scatter, then it means that everyone gets to scatter behind trees. So it's not 6 versus 3. It's 6 versus 3 plus 1.5 billion freaking trees. Also, question, by the way, before I do all that. Mm-hmm. Is the creature visible now, like at the moment?
So they waited for you to approach the nest itself. And so the creature is not nearby.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, so then I'm pushing these things behind trees, these soldiers behind trees, mm-hmm. As I challenge them using the power of special armor. So that's how I would resist.
So
paranoia plus tactics.
So Karevis kind of senses as they're about to spring the ambush, kind of pushes and scatters the group amongst the trees. A half dozen people in like heavy coats and nondescript colors pop out with hand crossbows and heavy crossbows, and some of them have sabers, and one of them has a big, almost like falconry glove, and there is another rune in like dripping messy but dried blood that one of them holds up, and it goes vroom, and the rune glows, and there's a shriek from the distance from the creature.
Dude, I am that guy. I'm just like, Troy, freaking Brad Pitt from Troy trying to leap down on that dude.
So
Sorry,
let's
Marie.
go
Go ahead.
to Kara real quick. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Can I, is that I have for my special armor, I can resist a complication related to traps or ambushes against your coterie.
Mhm.
So can I, when, without shooting Caravis, but can the complication related to the ambush be that rune kind of lighting, and can I take off a shot at his arm? Understanding the spell is probably already set, but stopping him from perhaps casting it twice.
Sure. So Karevis already resisted you are ambushed and flat-footed, so that
Right,
doesn't have
yeah.
to be resisted.
Yeah.
The those people were always going to be there,
Mm-hmm.
so there's not an active thing to be resisted.
Okay, not even. Okay, perfect.
The like them kind of calling the creature is like a soft move because it's not here immediately. If any of you address that, like take that character on, you might be able to circumvent whatever that threat is. Um, so if you
Yeah.
and Karevis would like to coordinate or collaborate, I'd love to hear how you all want to handle this.
I mean, I would yell out while Kara is doing that. I would yell out, "Zelfa, look for the creature!" I'd be like, because we all know what the deal is with that, because Zelfa saw the rune. So I'd be yelling, basically, Zelfa, watch, like, tell us when the creature shows up, because I think we have to get this dude down first. What I have a theory about how to do that. Well, I'm not gonna have time to yell all this out. You'll see
Right.
what I do when I do it, but that would be what I would yell. As far as like coordinating it, I don't know what Kara thinks, but Kara might have the same instinct as me at the same time, which is we have to first of all we have to get rid of that rune and that guy. Like
Uh,
that's the primary obligation I would think of.
Yeah,
We
and
have to
so
defeat him anyway, but we ought to defeat them first.
if you've
I
trained
think.
together, having trained together, how do you think the two of you would address this?
She ducks and skulks, and I, you know,
I did the Kirk roll behind a boulder,
Okay.
and I'm
yeah,
good.
exactly. All right, Shatner,
Da, da,
like.
da, 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 da.
So it's at this
Um,
time we should choose load.
okay. Um,
So you either brought 1 to 3 items with you, or you brought up to 6. If you have 4 to 6, then you came looking like you are operators out and about. That's probably fine here because you're here under official auspices, but it means that you will move a little bit more slowly than if you were light.
I mean, if we're on a hunt, even if we hadn't exactly expected ambush, I probably would have brought. I would have my blade.
Not
To
individual
be
items,
honest,
total range of items. Would you have 4 to 6 worth of things, or would you have a light load of up a max of 3 boxes of things? That's the only
no,
thing
I
you
would
have to
definitely.
figure
I
out
mean, I
now.
would definitely. Yeah, I would definitely not be overloaded, but I would be wearing armor. I mean, because the assumption that we were going to be dealing with a creature, so armor and my sword. So
So
I don't know.
I think it would very
Three.
make a lot of sense for one or both of Kara and Karevis to be at normal. I would expect it may be more likely that Zelfa is carrying a light load, but that's of course up to Brandon.
I actually think that Zelfa would actually be quite loaded.
Okay. Cool.
I mean,
So,
Zelfa was not assuming that we would meet armed combatants in the Green Sea.
okay. So that lets you know how much gear you can mark in total. Zelfa, that arcane implements does count toward that load because it's already been selected here. So what action are y'all taking with regards to these ambushers, would-be ambushers? Because hunt and skirmish cannot be used in the same role together. So it's either a group action where you're agreeing on one action, one person is setting up another, or one person is taking that action on their own.
I don't know whether I'm allowed to mention what I'd like to do, or whether that's tactically like, I don't want to influence tactically what everybody's doing if that's not what they would have done on their own.
I think table talk is fine here.
Okay. What we need to do, I think, is slash the rune. I mean, yes, we need to kill the person, but we need to break the rune. So that's my plan, is to go right after the dude's, glove, bloody, whatever, with the rune on it, and basically slash down at the rune and then go after to try to eliminate the guy. But start with doing that. That would be my suggestion, and I'm happy to take that guy on. I feel like, and if I'm doing that and focusing on that, that means there's going to be 5 other guys with free shots.
Right.
So that would be great if Carr at that point could, be dealing with those, or we could go after the same guy with the rune. Right. But I think we have to eliminate the rune hopefully we break the rune and that breaks control, and then the creature becomes kind of a free agent. Either it runs or it causes as much problem for them as it does for us. And since it's already coming this way anyway, we'd rather have it be chaos instead of being targeted at us specifically, I think.
Could I have, because I have baited and set, and I suspected that somebody might be coming. I mean, obviously something's been set. Could I have set and I've been focused on traps, as you know.
Yeah.
This is not, a catch and release trap. This is more of a like, oh, you got teeth stuck in your leg type of trap. But could I have set at least one trap that perhaps would have been of use to us?
Absolutely. So I'm just going to look at baited and set. It says, you are a master planner. Gain 1 free flashback and take +1 effect when setting or having set a trap. So basically give us that short scene of you already set a trap here.
It's a trap. I would have kind of looked at the movements and the ground and thought, like, I feel like there are some people who have been taking this road here. Like, they've been trying to hide their trail, but I can tell just by a few little indications here. And I would have said it, pulled out from my bag. No, I would have just said basically 2 daggers with their points sticking up. And cover them with leaves, and then with a rope tied between 2 trees. So basically, I'm hoping that somebody will come from the path that I selected, trip on it, and then fall onto the daggers. It's a bit more complicated than usually they say to make, but I'm trying different types of traps at this point.
Okay, cool. And I think we can go ahead and just say that you did that, and now you can spring it. So is this a hunt action?
Yes, we will call it a hunt action.
It seems very, very much like a hunt thing. Makes sense. But of course, you always get to say which one it's going to be. Because it is hidden, because you did a flashback, I think that this is risky standard with hunt.
Okay. Risky standard. Perfect.
And so that is a 6. So on a 6, you are going to incapacitate half of that group of 6, and there is not a consequence for you. What that means is that while that there is some chaos and some Wilhelm screams while Karevis is charging the kind of the falconry rune, the falconry glove using assailant. But it's still 4-on-1 Karevis. So I would say without anything affecting it, which I know you will have things to affect it, I think you would be at desperate limited.
Look, I bring all of you to episode 6, season 1 of The Mandalorian, where he's standing there. No, I'm sorry. Episode 1, season 1 of The Mandalorian, where he's standing in a room and the stormtroopers are like, "We've got you at 4-1." He's like, "I like those odds." Like that's so that's me. I'm just like, and also, I mean, I assume the fact that these 3, traps have been taken out. Wait a minute. Did you say he took out 3?
It should be. It should be 2, rather than 3.
2.
Yeah.
Okay. So
there's
it's
4 of the 6 remaining.
4. Okay.
Yeah.
What I would. Okay, I would say then that if I look at my sheet, I'm happy to push myself here at some point. I mean, I'll do that with no problem. That fits. I would say, gap in the armor. again, I think we had this discussion before that gap in the armor feels more like, like maybe push yourself to find a weakness in an argument, gesture, or evasion and seize an advantage. I don't know if that also means combat-wise, Mike, or if that's mostly oriented towards more social situations.
I think it's more social than not. You could use it here, but you would have to be rolling survey instead. And so you would survey to analyze them and get weaknesses, and then you'd be able to use that because you would be setting yourself up.
So could
but
I survey?
It requires a second roll, which is, so it's 2 chances to get bad dice rolls. Because you could roll, you roll 3 dice on survey and it comes up 3-1-3.
Yeah, he's not going to do that. At this point, Karevis is going to literally challenge. I mean, part of the idea is challenging before they have a chance to react, because I imagine they're not expecting they're going to get some dude running at them 1-on-4.
Sure.
But that's how Karevis rolls. Let's see if Karevis actually rolls. So I would run towards them, and I would absolutely push myself here to get a bonus die.
Great.
And I don't.
So, what are you using your dread blade here?
Now this is what I was going to ask you, because I don't think I'd be using my courtly blade. I was thinking this was a monster hunt thing.
Right.
So I think I would have brought my dread blade. And unless, now you tell me if I'm wrong, isn't a dread blade a hand and a half, like bastard sword equivalent?
It can be if you want it to be. I think of these as a blade for fancy duels that also looks awesome if you're like dancing at a ball, and a blade for doing killing.
This is a blade for doing killing. It's also a blade for hitting like a truck.
Yeah.
So
do you
type of thing.
Is this like a two-hander? Like, because as a sword,
hand and a half.
Okay. So hand and a half. It's got versatility. You're using like torsion and twirling. It's very maneuverable.
Yes.
But
And
there's also a big hit.
Right. I'm basically doing but I am going to like it is going to be two-handed, but it's going to be, as I come through. In fact, I imagine that they would come in and like one of the people is like stepping in front of me, and I would just do one of the Conan, like knock him off with the hilt, so I can then grab it and bring it down straight over the guy's runed hand, thereby breaking the rune. The monster feels it and just dies for no reason on its own. Oh, no. And the dead dude somewhere comes back to life and destroys the shield breaker. Okay, that doesn't happen. But the rest of what I said, I would love to happen. so I'm at least pushing myself to do this thing.
You're asking for a lot here.
I know.
So
but yes, the dread blade.
Dread blade will get you to desperate standard.
Okay. And if I push myself, the question is, do I go out of desperate or no, you know what? I don't want to go out of desperate. I want to increase the effect. Okay. So if I push it to go from, it's not standard, but to next step up is what?
Great.
Great. Yes. Desperate great. Yes.
So desperate great would either eliminate 3 of the remaining 4, or would let you incapacitate the rune user.
Do I have to decide now?
No.
Okay. Let me see if that even works first.
Sure.
Okay. So that's skirmish, right?
It sure can be.
I mean, it seems.
Is anybody in a position to give Karevis an assist here?
Please.
I know that Zelfa has the free assists move as a mastermind type. So Brandon, if you have an idea here.
Because the thing that ultimately reveals itself in this moment, at least the thing that I think would be cool to do, is to have manifested some mild modification to Karevis's weapons that would automatically create an additional opportunity in conflict. That's very difficult for a sword in ways that would be very easy for a pistol. But it would be, I don't know, it'd be kind of cool to have it like covered in flammable material such that your initial attack just um generates this large distracting fire that does additional harm as well. But I feel like Zelfa would have done something like that, something that would have turned your initial um conflict into your initial dive into conflict into something much more intense.
Can I pitch to you? I don't know whether I'm able to do this. Can I pitch to you a way that you could do that that would have this effect? Um, would Zelfa be able to re-weight my dread blade such that here's my imagination of it. Please, all the sword experts in chat, just pause here. Imagine that there is a groove down the center of the dread blade. Imagine that there's a weight that begins at the hilt. Imagine that as I go forward, I Conan it up the way I said, and then I'm able to hit a button on the hilt that pushes the weight forward to the end of the blade, so that when you come down, the result is that you are hitting with increased force on the person. And the reason that's important for distraction is it means you not just incapacitate the rune person, you wipe them the hell out in a way that everyone's like, this is directly taken from Ghost of Tsushima, by the way, I will fully admit, which is, kind of does this thing where you are so terrifying in how you eliminate someone that people are just like, I'm leaving now. That was the most horrifying thing I've ever seen. So, is that possible, Mike / Brendan? Or
Brandon, do you think that is something that you would be able to do mechanically and or magically?
I think that mechanically something like that would be kind of possible. I am intrigued by the idea that it is really something as simple as there is like a modified mechanism at the hilt such that you just kind of click down on a thing and it just kind of propels that extra weight in the direction that you want it to.
Right. Because like if there's a fuller in the blade and then there's a weight and the weight is like attached to something so that the weight is kind of toward the hilt and then you can release it, the torsion of the twisting of the blade and the energy from your body could move the weight forward, which would then add weight to the hit.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're in swashbuckling fantasy, that sounds great. Let's do it.
Yeah. Sometimes swords don't work the way that they do in real life.
And it makes a sound like this little as it's going down the blade. That's also terrifying. Can you imagine? Like as it clicks into place? Oh.
Yep.
So good.
Batman's sword went off like a gun.
Yeah, like as Rudnell points out, if I miss, it means that I'm gonna like stagger way past. I'm like, right, but as Trent always says, just roll high. I just won't miss. Yeah. That's all. I'll just, make sure I don't miss.
I believe, as other actual players say, talk shit, roll crits.
Right? Yeah, sure. Exactly.
Just roll a 6 forehead.
Just roll a 6. Exactly, forehead.
Okay.
Okay. So let me see if I understood everything we just did. Okay, so that means that I'm rolling skirmish, but I'm also adding.
My assist is only +1 die, right? It can't be used for effect instead.
Assist is +1d.
Cool.
You're getting increased effect from your sword, and if you are pushing yourself, you can do desperate great. So you would be rolling desperate great skirmish with 1 bonus die.
Go for broke. Go for I would be a terrible influence here.
I mean, well, this honestly, I mean, this to me is kind of like, I think Karebis is tactically doing the thing that needs to be done because we're not going to win a standard fight. Like this has to be one that you like break their will early before they realize that they've got it's Han chasing after the billion stormtroopers, right? Until they figure out and then turn around and like.
Yeah.
So, if you don't cut off that arm, then it's bust. So just go for broke.
Right, I know. Okay, so my position's desperate, right? My effect is great.
Yep.
And my bonus dice. So how many bonus dice do I have?
1 bonus die.
That's it, huh? What about because the pushing myself just changed the position, right?
Yeah. If you could instead have desperate standard skirmish with 2 bonus dice by pushing for a die instead of effect.
Right now, I would have 3 dice total, right? 2 for
Correct.
skirmish and 1 bonus.
So that's a 80-something% chance of getting at least 1 4, according to kind of normative dice statistics.
That was an impressive normative dice statistic to pull out on a Friday night at 11:15.
I'm designing a Forged in the Dark RPG.
Bless your heart. Very nice.
Okay. 1 die, 50% chance. 2 dice, 75% chance of one of them coming up 4 or higher. And it goes to 87. Then I don't remember if it's 90 something at 4 dice. And I think 97 at 5.
So
I still think under this, yeah, I still think in this situation he chooses. He's not trying to be foolish. He's doing this because he knows this combat needs to end fast.
Right.
All right, chat. Can I get some hypes in chat? Some hypes. Do we
if
get that?
somebody in chat has an inspiration they can spend.
Oh, yes! Come on, chat.
Inspiration.
Let's go. Chat,
it's rare that chat can inspire Arv because he's often GMing.
And inspiring him would be mean to the players.
Prince Justin is inspired. Yay!
All right. So you can take that as another bonus die. So that would be Desperate, Great, Skirmish, 2 bonus dice.
Thank you, Prince Justin. Officer and a gentleman. All right. Woo! Here we go, y'all.
You got this.
Oh, dear.
Wow.
According to my statistics, that's impressive.
That's bad. So
Wow.
you got the big sword.
All right, I leap into the mouth of the creature.
No,
Into a tree.
but I think you're right about the creature. I think that it maybe wasn't as far away as you all thought. And so you kind of blow through the one, and you've got the sword, and you were going to absolutely lumberjack hew through this dude with the big gauntlet, and you are knocked over and sent rolling by this big creature. And it is going to do level.
Become my friend.
I think it's going to do
Some hugs.
level 2 harm, cracked rib.
Oh.
And it is going to isolate you from the rest of the group.
All right, that hurt. That hurt.
So those are 2 consequences. You can resist both of them, but they will take separate resists.
Okay, first of all, I did take 1 stress, so that was 5 stress now. So if I resist, okay, so right now I have level 2 harm means I get -1d.
On any roll where that harm is applicable. You can use armor on any consequence that is harm. So if you used your armor, you would take that level 2 harm down to 0, but you would not be able to use that armor again this engagement.
I mean, well, then I'm going to do that because that seems very clearly not the time to be taking -2 harm.
So that would mean...
All right, so it kind of crunches and I like throw up my arm, like, just as his jaws chomp down.
Yeah, but you would still get isolated from the rest of the group.
Yeah, that's, hey, listen.
Okay.
God, man, 1, 3, 1, 2.
Yeah,
What the hell is that?
Sometimes the dice are mean.
Yep.
So
that's some hot garbage roll right there.
I'm going to... So
it's true. No, it's true.
Curvis charges through the 4. A couple of them have fallen onto traps. Some are bleeding. They're kind of flailing around in the brush. Red Crow is pulling up a sturdy, worn crossbow to start taking on some of the others. But I'm curious what Zelfa is up to, because we know that Zelfa did some assisting earlier, and Zelfa has just gotten a big magical whammy. But what is she going to do next?
Zelfa, in a lot of pain, sees the guy with the thing and goes, that thing looks like this thing that looks like the thing on the thing. So if I break that, maybe all of this stops. So I draw both of my pistols while I'm still in a lot of pain and try to aim directly for the rune on this guy's hand.
On the guy's hand.
Yes.
Okay. What action
with
is
my
this?
dread sword as the cross guard like marker, like aim for here, like right above the.
Yeah. So what action is that?
Here's the thing, right? All of the actions that would potentially apply, I'm bad at. I have no skills in rec. I have no dots in rec. I have no dots in hunt. And while I have a dot in channel, I don't know how I argue that. What do I do? I make the bullet move like in the movie Wanted.
So, Brandon, I can suggest something that you're welcome to discard.
Yes, please. It can't be better than the options I already have.
What if the guns are implements for doing channel, and or what if you target the runes in the tree? Because as you said, they are all connected.
I like the channel guns idea.
Because why shouldn't you be able to channel with guns?
Yeah. Let's lean into that. Yes.
So how have you made it so that you can channel with your guns? Tell me about this cool thing.
I think it's not. Well, I think it is a matter of the guns being special. But what I mean by the guns being special is, there are like the alta incantations in the barrels of my pistols that need to be deliberately invoked in order to be of magical use, which is why it needs to be a channel. It's not like firing the bullet does the thing. I actually have to engage with the magic within those barrels.
Right.
But when I do, it enchants any bullet that passes through it at the time that it has been invoked.
Okay. I'm just looking at other things that you might have. So I think doing channel is desperate, but you'd start at standard position.
Okay.
Also,
So,
Greg, you should mark 1 XP in body, which means that you can take a new action right away.
I can?
So I want to ask the...
Yeah.
Oh, really? Why? I'm sorry. Why did that happen? Why do I get a body?
When you make a desperate action roll, you mark 1 XP in that action's category, and that fills
Even
your
when
track.
I screw up?
Just
Yeah,
rolling.
the roll is 0.
Oh, so do I? So once I filled it up, you said I get an action.
You can put 1 action point in any body action, as long as you're not going
Like right
above
now?
3 right now.
Skirmish.
Okay.
And then clear this.
We may come back around to that. So for sorry,
Brandon.
I interrupted myself and Brandon. So I'm sorry, Brandon.
So, the question that I have is, so I am presently soul seared. Does that affect this roll?
I feel like it kind of would have to, because you're doing magic. I will.
Cool, fun. That means I'm starting with 0D.
I will offer you a lady's favor that will give you.
I would like to hear.
So it's going to be a big one. I will
Okay.
I will let you ignore the harm and give you +1D. But you will. I will start a clock that is corrupted grove, as the corruption in this rune is spreading throughout the grove in this land that is your people's land. and it is going to be a 4 o'clock with 1 tick on it. And if it fills, this place is going to be a problem.
Will it be a problem that we can treat at a later date, or will
Yes.
it just?
It's
Okay,
it's
cool.
future Zelfa's problem.
Jesus Christ.
Exactly. I was just gonna say, oh great, that's lovely.
Can you tell me what will tick this clock in the future if it doesn't fill immediately? What things will tick this clock?
Consequences here, probably from magic stuff. Time if nobody does anything about it.
That's bad. That's bad. That's bad.
My friend, you have 0 dice right now if you don't take this.
Okay, I'm gonna do the thing. I have to hope that we just break the thing. I have to hope that I just break the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
got
assist
this.
by yelling, "You can do it!" on my back, like, you know.
Well, so what I want to say with Karevis is that failure was not about Karevis not being good at sword stuff. Karevis is really good at sword stuff. So you're still in the mix there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like,
no, I didn't think I was
Especially not
like
being
a clumsy
injured means that
buffoon.
you can continue to scrap afterwards.
yeah, because if you are facing down the Grove Strider, that's 1 fewer thing for Zelfa to have to deal with. So you can absolutely assist by just staying engaged there.
I assume this is all one motion. I fell down and I'm slow-moing coming up while you were all deciding the rest of what to do.
Right.
So what's my position and effect?
So you will be at Desperate Standard, and if you are getting an assist, you will be at +1 die from that and +1 die from the Lady's Favor, and you will be ignoring your harm.
Okay. Is anyone assisting me?
It sounds like Karevis is assisting. Is that right, Arv?
Oh, I was kind of joking. I mean,
I can assist.
Is Kara assisting? Yeah.
I can, as you're going, I'm like, go ahead, because Karevis is down. You got this.
I'm rolling.
I'm fine.
This is part 2 of the
Right.
5
So
part 4.
with the traps laid, is Kara pulling out a crossbow, guns, knives? What's her style here? Crossbow.
Yeah, more of the distance hunter, if you will. Besides the sword didn't quite work out for Karevis, so I'm going to go with my crossbow and try to get some shots in.
Okay. If you mark one stress, then that will be +1d for Zelfa.
Okay, so 2 bonus dice. Please 1 6. A 5, I guess. Okay.
Okay. So on a 5, so describe what it looks like when the bullets turn into spiritual energy and blow up the rune.
Okay. So Zelfa,
Or some other way of doing that, if you have another idea.
So Zelfa whispers an incantation in the original Dialton tongue and fires. And instead of what obviously should look like bullets leaving the barrel, they look like 2 golden sparrows flying out of the barrel of these 2 pistols. And they rush into the rune on this guy's hand as if they are passing solidly through him. And the after effect as they leave the space of this guy's hand is that the rune shatters and probably takes a lot of bone and tendon and blood from the guy's hand with it.
Sure. Okay.
Because they're still bullets. They just don't look or sound or act like bullets, but they're still bullets.
Right. So on the standard effect, you have you've taken the kind of controller out of the combat for now. I don't think that combatant is totally dead, just substantially injured. But with a desperate consequence, I think that that rune shattering, it kind of shatters into like napalm style fire, and then the rune on the tree lights and the rune on the creature lights. And what I'm going to say is that I'm going to put 1 tick on Corrupted Grove, and the creature is going to be fatally injured and will not survive. So this being will not have been saved. They will also be a consequence of this attack.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
So either of those can be resisted.
Jesus. You know what? I'm going to bite the bullet. This is not going to go well for me. The consequence of this is that I will suffer trauma, but I am going to resist this consequence.
You could roll really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just roll well.
Just roll a 6.
That worked for me.
Yeah, so
Forehead.
You're resisting the creature getting killed?
I'm resisting Corrupted Grove first.
Okay. So,
at least assuming that if the land is healed, we can get to the creature afterwards.
Sure.
And I'm going to resist with spirit.
Okay. So...
I get no bonus dice.
Let's go.
When you roll a 6, you don't take any stress. Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Woo.
I'm
like,
so
in my slow-mo roll, I'm like, excellent shot. Like,
so Brandon, how do you keep that kind of destruction of the rune from furthering the corruption of the grove? What in how Zelfa did this protected the grove like that?
So when you say that it lights, when you say that the runes became lit, I actually imagined that they essentially exploded. That I triggered a chain reaction that just kind of triggered this like dark energy to just kind of pulse outward from the thing. And because I'm already standing by the rune and I see the thing happen, I'm like, okay, this is what it looks like when I have catastrophically broken the thing. I just try to focus all of that negative energy upwards and outwards from the land itself, so that it doesn't like continue to damage the earth that it's presently in and around. This is a resistance, so I can't use this to hurt people.
Right.
But I imagine that if I could, I would take all of this energy and just kind of throw it at the nearest combatant.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. The napalm kind of gets flicked up and kind of burns itself into like smoke that also smells like asbestos or
that too.
or like rancid eggs. And like the clouds also look wrong. They're like, what if lava solidified into cloud? So that's the first resist. Anybody can resist the Grove Strider dying. It's just a question of how.
Unless you want to, Arv, as you are currently with it. You're like, no.
Oh. Well, I mean, I can, but yeah,
no, I can. I can do it. I mean, I see the little napalm kind of blowing out, and I'm resisting partly with the Grove Strider because this is not its thing. Like my family hunts monsters, but there are lines. But also because I am concerned that Caravis will take extra damage as well because he's in the way. So I would like to try to resist that.
Okay. I'm just gonna check real quick. Brandon, is it okay for somebody else to be doing this resist? Are you good? Are you cool with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I am cool with visiting the narrative implications of this going well or poorly.
Okay. Just since I leaned into the interest that you had expressed, and I want to make sure that I'm getting your buy-in as a player as we do it, as we're doing these beats. Cool. So how is Kara keeping this creature from getting consumed by the shattering spell?
I mean, if possible, my ideal way to do it would be to grab one of the assailants and throw him while holding him as a shield against all of us, so that he would take the damage, and I might take a bit, but nobody behind would take the damage.
Okay, so you're blocking the Grove Strider from the magical explosion fallout.
Yeah, basically by using one of the ambushers as a shield, a big squishy shield with armor.
Sure. Do you think,
Mike, can I ask a question about this thing? Is the thing that is blowing up on it right now is the rune, right? Which was a chain reaction.
yes, what I had expressed was that the rune explodes, and that because of the sympathetic connection,
right,
the Grove Strider and the tree are taking damage. So I think the perfect resist would be about the rune on the Grove Strider, or the Grove Strider as it's getting hurt.
Right. I was going to ask about that. Is there a way, since I have been semi-half jokingly talking about my sort of, drop into the role, that I could attempt to slash the rune on the creature? Because if we break the rune on the creature, it breaks the sympathetic link. Presumably it doesn't take that. I mean, we're not going to save the tree, but sorry, you can't do everything. Is that logical? Because it's like one fluid motion. Like I never actually stopped rolling, I guess. So
yeah, I think we can kind of do both, where fictionally Kara is protecting Karevis and the creature from the force of the explosion, but then there is a chain reaction which maybe Karevis you're able to see the start of, and with the kind of speed and wit of a Bravo, make a precise cut that can break the rune on the creature. How does that sound to everybody? Just kind of putting all the things together. So when you resist, you do it. And I think this sure feels like a body resist for Karevis, because it's about quick response and precision.
Yeah. I mean, it's a question about entangling a target is a skirmish. I mean, I just put another thing in skirmish, so I would like to use skirmish, but I'm wondering if maneuver fits better.
Resists always have to be an attribute.
Oh, okay, got it. Then yes, definitely body. So I don't get any bonus dice, or do I get
I don't think you get any bonus dice for this resist. You've already used your special armor. You've already used physical armor.
I can't push myself to get a bonus die?
No, not for resist.
Alrighty then. So I'm just doing it. So I'll roll first, and then I guess Kara can pick up the pieces with her resist.
Totally fine.
Right.
Okay, resist 4? With body. So when you roll on a 4, you're going to take 2 stress to do that.
Okay.
And so
I'm all right.
There is a yelp from the Grove Strider, but then the rune dissolves instead of lighting on fire. And elsewhere, Zelfa has kind of magically pulled the corruption and the negative magical energy from the rune on the tree and flung it up into the air as it kind of congeals in that weird way that I described before. Kara has jumped with one of the bandits in front of the one with the glove, so that explosion doesn't hurt Red Crow or Zalfa. Karevis, and then on the other side reacts and the rune on the creature disintegrates. When that all happens, the Grove Strider just kind of collapses on its side and is doing the like heavy breathing thing where you like we're seeing the stomach, and this creature has all at once looks small and scared and hurt. But the other attackers just hightail it. They completely abandon the kind of the gloved one and the ones that have already been injured.
Can I shoot one of them in the back?
I was going to
Absolutely.
ask this.
Or in the leg to try to
How many are
stop
left?
them?
So I think the one with the glove isn't dead. The
Okay.
two that Kara ambushed are probably seriously hurt. Kara is going to shoot one of them in the back. You can, I think, because we're going to move to kind of conclusion here, Kara, if you want to shoot them in the back and kill them, that's fine. If you want to pin them to a tree to be able to interrogate them, that's fine.
I want to pin them to a tree, and it's going to look cool too.
Okay.
Can we do this with all of them? Because I don't think we want any of them to get back to report anything. It would be much better if they never appeared again from the forest, if you know what I mean.
Sure. I think that is fine. And I'm not, the dramatic question of doing that is not as interesting to me as some of the other implications. And we're at 11:40. So I'm going to say that we get a quick montage of tracking down the rest of these assailants, because you have Red Crow with you, and you are able to get from them after some aggressive interrogation that is not actually torture. But, you know, Karevis yelling at people is very scary, and Red Crow is also scary. They will attest that they were hired by someone who says they were representing House Lironti.
House Lironti?
Yes. House Lironti is beneath Ferrist on the kind of hierarchy, and Ferrist, this is one of Ferrist's holdings. So Ferrist losing status with that holding would make Ferrist easier to overtake.
So wait, so House Lironti essentially is under Ferrist's sway?
No, Lironti wants Ferrist to take a dive so that they can overtake Lironti. This is Lironti undermining Ferrist.
Oh.
Because they're making it look like Ferrist can't take care of their holdings.
So House Lironti, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. We have reason to believe that they're being truthful in their attestation.
At least from an initial impression, and kind of as we're going to move into downtime, I think the effects of this are that Lironti is going to lose face here because this action has been exposed, and you are going to get one favor with House Ferrist for doing this thing for them that they weren't able to take care of for themselves.
Deals at House Lironti.
I'm curious.
Got a lot of stress.
I'm curious what it looks like to kind of bring this kind of innocent, screwed with being back into like a healthy way of being, and if anybody has an idea of what that looks like.
I think Zelfa, because I think like part of the struggle very obviously is not a lot of people who are not the Alta know a great deal about how to maintain some of the rarer creatures of the Green Sea. Like some things are known, but not all of them. Least of which, how to treat one when they're injured or ill.
Right.
And the consequence is, I know a bit more than some people, but definitely not most. So I think that I'm really just kind of trying my best. I'm feeding it. I'm tending to the wound. I'm tending to the wounds that it incurred in that fight through old natural methods. I feel like I literally stay in the Green Sea for a night to kind of treat the creature as patiently as possible in the hopes that it will at least be a bit better, so it can recover
Right.
on its own time.
Okay. And I think you are probably going to be able to get at least some assistance from the Sentinels, because most of them are about killing creatures, but you need to learn about them to be able to kill them better, and there are probably some who are either Dialta and or they have other reasons for not always wanting to just kill everything. So we get a montage of kind of getting this this animal back to the point where it can just return to the Green Sea. And like, it's a predator, it's gonna keep killing things, but it's probably not gonna kill humans, and it's not gonna be suffering in the way that it was. It's gonna just go back to being part of the ecosystem.
Nice.
And I think you are going to get 4 influence for this errand. So that can be 1 for the coterie and then 1 each for the 3 of you. You get
Okay.
one favor with Fairest, as I said. You are going to get a +1 relationship with the Sentinels for helping them out. And I think this is really only 2 exposure. Contained, discreet, sensible, standard exposure. It was not loud and chaotic. Like, not... It was such a small fight. And
In a forest.
and contained. It did not, like... It wasn't in front of a bunch of civilians. And so I think that is another nice bit for y'all. So that just only takes you to 4 exposure. And then I will roll the entanglement again. And I think in the interest of time, I'm going to say that I'll talk with the players and we'll do XP afterward. Probably like just on the Discord. We've done XP live before, so we do have an example there. We're closing in on midnight, and I know that, you know, Arv at least is at a convention, and we'll have lots of things to do this weekend, and we all have various obligations and lives. So thank you all for rolling with me as we have a little bit of an accelerated conclusion and denouement. But I'm very glad that we were able to kind of get Kara into the spotlight and to do a little bit with those different views on the creatures and animals and flora and fauna of this island.
Same. We got to have feelings.
And so I will say, I'm just going to do the outro thing real quick. Which will leave our host Greg at the end, but just remind everybody where folks can find your work, plug something if you would like, and we will say farewell.
Thank you. So I'm Marie. I was excited to be here. Thank you so much for being here and being a happy chat, and to all the players. You can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram as Marie Bilodeau. I have a website that I never update. And yeah, I will be next on, I guess, here on the 24th when we play again, and then on Eberron on the 25th. So that'll be 2 nights in a row right here, party time.
As for me, I have been and will always be Brandon O'Brien. Pronouns he, him, or they, them. You can find me on almost all social media at The Rising Tides. My newsletter is brandonO'Brien.xyz. A reminder again that you can support the cool stuff that Speculate does at speculatesf.com and patreon.com/speculate. Your support allows us to continue doing these cool things and making sure that our wonderful audio editor Rudy Basso gets to eat while doing the cool things, editing the cool things that we do. Again, a reminder for all of the lovely people in this chat right now that one of the designers of Court of Blades is celebrating her birthday tonight. So you can definitely help the Drakes buy cake this evening by getting a copy of Court of Blades for yourself with the very cool itch.io bundle that allows you to pay less than Court of Blades costs for Court of Blades and two of its companion zines, so you can do all of the weird stuff that we're doing in Valloward in your own game, in your own world, with all of the lovely people that you want to play games with personally yourself. And of course, a reminder personally that if you want to support me in particular, I wrote a poetry book called "Can You Sign My Tentacle?" and it won an Elgin Award. And I think that that's really rad. And if you don't have a copy, you should get a copy wherever you get your poetry books. So that's me.
I'm Mike Underwood. I've been the dancing master for this campaign, and one of the things I love most about GMing Forge in the Dark games is that much of the game is as much as a surprise to me as it is to anybody else, because we play to find out what happens, and this was a great example of that. So thank you all to lovely players. Thank you to chat. Thank you for the inspiration, though the results were suboptimal. That's sometimes what happens with the dice, but who knows how much worse it would have been. I might have felt meaner. Maybe I wouldn't have. We will continue Court of Blades on the 24th, which will be my birthday, which means I think as the GM, if it's my birthday and I'm the GM, does that just mean that everything is harder? We'll find out. Probably not.
Means you're in a better mood, and thus
interesting.
gifting. Everyone gives gifts to everybody.
I should get a little hat, the birthday hat.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now you have to.
Right.
Note to self. I will do that. Right now, the best way to listen to episodes of Speculate is at speculatesf.com. There are some, unfortunately, lingering challenges that came about from the old website dying and having to export to the new site. So I beg your indulgence. I will remind everyone that you can watch all of the videos from streamed episodes also at speculatesf.com, because we have cool video playlists on the website that will just give you the YouTube things. And this episode will show up on YouTube in about 24 hours. So you can watch all of Fractal Spire, our game of Girl by Moonlight, which we just wrapped and was amazing. And then check out the website and follow on social for news of upcoming projects as we announce them. You can find me on Twitter at Mike R. Underwood, while Twitter continues to exist, which I guess it is, sort of, very shaky.
Kind of.
And then over to Greg.
So thanks, everybody. First of all, it was wonderful to play with all the wonderful players as always. So thank you, Marie and Brandon. And Mike, as always, really good GMing here. Very visual and a lot of really cool stuff that came up as a result of it. I think Karevis feels like Karevis did Karevis things. So I think that was good. And very interesting to see where we go next with the intrigue. So I liked all of that. Chat, this is my channel. Obviously, I am a co-host of Speculate with Mike and Brandon, and am honored to be able to have this appear live on this chat. And we had pretty solid, consistent turnout tonight for this, so that was great. Please spread the word about this. Please do come to speculatesf.com, as Brandon mentioned, to also support our Patreon. Please also check out the on the non-Speculate side, the stuff that we have for the rest of the month. As Marie said, we've got Eberron coming up. We've got another expedition from the Mysterious Peaks. We still have over on GOGCOM D&D with GOG Ghosts of Saltmarsh and Talisman Adventures. And of course, we had the Shire Adventures campaign that is now up to day 2 that was sponsored by Free League. So we got a lot of that good stuff over there. Quick programming note, I am coming back from the convention that I'm at. I still can say tomorrow. So I'm still going to be coming back tomorrow evening. I don't know if I'll have a stream. If I do, it'll be late tomorrow night. It would probably be some more Sorcery 4, but it depends on how tired I am and when I actually get back in the door. So I don't know for 100% sure. We will see, but otherwise we've got a lot more stuff coming up. Also, don't miss Bag of Giving, which is coming up in a couple of weeks on Monday. That's Mike's other gig as far as this is concerned with Brandon Crilly. And so you should check that out, because Bag of Giving is a really cool thing that we're honored to do in this channel as well. And there's not going to be a raid today. You know the ways to support the channel. Do all the things, but in particular, please do support Speculate and and the Patreon and all that stuff for Speculate. And I will see you lovely people on my channel. If not tomorrow, then definitely early next week. So thanks again, Mike. Thanks, players. Thanks, chat. You're all awesome, and we'll catch you soon.
Bye, all.